Order, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, the floor is open for public comment. If you have any public comment, please come to the microphone. Just state your name and address, and that is for the benefit of the clerk so she can get it down. Are we all operational, Jenna? Perfect. There we go. Public comment is open.
My name is Devin Alton. I live at 249 Middle Road, and I'm here under the fulfillment, whatever, of council member of my body. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, we do. And I'm gonna read this. I would like to draw attention to the unfair burdens that is placed on our town of Otsego Court Clerk regarding the selection of fees incurred in parking tickets served in the village. Virtually all parking tickets are issued in the village. Most are paid online, but each still requires intake, data entry, docketing, fine processing, and reporting through our court management software. Most appeals are handled online as well, so we will have an in-person appeal in August. Due to aggressive enforcement, the number of citations this year is already over 2,900 as of today. And I think I heard that there were 40, there might be 45 more just today. So it will likely quadruple last year's number by the end of the summer. The court clerk now spends 80% of their time processing parking tickets. Once the fees are collected, they are sent back to the village. We repeat, all fees are collected and sent back to the village. Town of Otsego receives none of these fees. Yet, the town of Otsego pays the court clerk's salary. I urge the village to hire a part-time clerk, process parking tickets instead of a physical office in Spain for the position in the village town hall.
Thank you, Deb. Why don't you give it to Jen?
Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, I just have a letter to read, for my father who can't be here tonight.
Yeah, I think we're having issues with that mic, but.
Okay, I might give you copies of this because I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Eric Gage. I live at 36 Nelson Ave. I was actually a trustee for 3 years myself. I know what it's like to be there. My father, Chuck Gage, wrote this letter, and he's approaching 90 now, and my mom's not doing great. So he asked me to read it on his behalf. So it says Chuck, but I'm Eric, and I'm reading the letters if I'm in. So. Good evening, I'm Chuck Gage, speaking tonight on behalf of my wife Ursula and myself. We have lived at 73 Pioneer Street for 35 years and have always paid our village taxes and water and sewer bills on time. I'm here tonight to address work performed by the village in February of 2025, the subsequent discussion by the trustee and water boards, and the resulting improper billing. My goal is to present the facts clearly and ask each one of you on the board individually to re-examine this matter with fresh eyes and a sense of basic fairness. The source of the problem, the village water main line under Pioneer Street. In February 2025, water was flooding the basement of 75 Pioneer, our neighbor's house. Water was pouring into their basement in large volume. Meanwhile, my water pressure at 73 Pioneer was completely fine, as the crew chief knew before the ditch. The neighbors' flooding and our normal water pressure strongly suggested that the likely source of the problem was the village water main line not the smaller lateral line going to my house. Our neighbors hired Bruce Hall immediately to help them deal with their flooding, and Bruce Hall said it's more than likely coming from the village water main line because of the huge volume of water. To find the source of our neighbors' flooding, a contractor hired by the village first dug a hole in front of our house. They discovered that location was not the source of the flooding, making a second hole necessary above the main line across Pioneer Street. Both holes were dug solely to locate a large water leak causing flooding in our neighbor's basement. If the village had chosen the correct spot the first time, the spot above the water line on the main water line across Pioneer Street, only one hole would have been dug and my property would never have been touched. While the first hole was still open, the crew chief said there was a minor curb valve leak unrelated to the flooding next door. He asked if I wanted it fixed, which I thought was a very strange question. I remarked that if it needed repair, I assumed you wouldn't fill the hole without fixing it, but I'm not telling you what to do. I never saw the leak, nor did I request the excavation. Given the facts of the situation, a reasonable expectation for a bill was strictly for a minor valve repair, not for the contractor's misdirected digging, nor for any village employee labor related to the digging. The meetings, no due process. The Water and Sewer Board and the Board of Trustees have repeatedly discussed billing me for this work, yet I was never invited to participate or offer contact. March 2025 meeting minutes reflect a one-sided narrative, including comments that I was getting a quote, good deal because parts weren't charged. While board minutes noted that I should be invited to a Water and Sewer Board meeting, that invitation never came. The billing and unfair tax retaliation. I have received multiple $2,500 and 0-cent invoices across 17 months from the contractor, from the DPW, the treasurer, and the village. Not a single invoice itemizes or separates the cost of the village excavation from the actual valve repair. I ask each trustee to see for themselves by reading each individual invoice. When I asked for an internal review or an itemized breakdown, the village went silent for 13 months until my May 2026 property tax bill arrived with an added $2,500 and 0-cent line item for a quote unpaid water bill. When I paid my property taxes in full and on time this year, the treasurer returned my check. Holding my legitimate property tax payment hostage over disputed, unitemized invoice is wrong. A subsequent call with the mayor and letters from the clerk has still failed to resolve two basic issues: providing an itemized bill and accepting my tax payment. What I'm asking for from the Board of Trustees, I ask each member of this board to look at the situation through the lens of common sense and fairness. One, immediately remove the $2,500 lien on my tax bill and accept my property tax payment without penalty. And two, eliminate this bill to correct all the wrongful actions taken by the village government. Now, my dad did say he expects you to vote on number one tonight. Do you think that should be easy to do and done right away and wait long enough? 17 months is long enough. I'd like to say something too. And this is something I would. I said, I'd like to make one personal comment as someone who has owned a house in the village for the past 30 years, and served as a trustee as well for 30 years. This situation makes me angry because it should never have reached this point. What began as a village project to locate a water main leak turned into months of unprofessional billing, poor communication, and a process that lacked transparency and basic fairness. After 13 months of silence, instead of working directly with my parents to resolve a legitimate billing dispute, the village chose a heavy-handed approach by placing a lien on my parents' tax bill and refusing to accept their property tax payment. Mistakes can happen. What matters is how they are handled. Public officials have a responsibility to act with professionalism, accountability, and respect for the residents they serve. I hope each of you will look at the facts objectively, correct the situation immediately, and help restore the trust that's been damaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is there any other public comments?
Hi. Tom was 39, Chestnut Street. I just wanted to add something to the comment that Dalton made. And that is, I think you all know that Otsego Town Court does a lot more business than possibly the heart. In fact, we handle felony complaints until they are handled with the county. We handle misdemeanor criminal charges, we handle tenant charges, small claims, restraining orders, domestic violence matters, all kinds of things that all must, by rule, by court rule, take priority over department. When I addressed the streets committee a few weeks ago, that I thought that the number of parking citations this year was doubled to a process of 1,100, which was more than my court department actually handled last year. I was wrong by a factor of at least 2. We are on, to look to see about at least 4,000 parking citations this year. We do not have the resources to process those in a timely manner. It is without a doubt going to result in a delay in the village getting the money that's due to them from parking fund. I place no blame, obviously, on the police department. We have a very good, very aggressive parking enforcement officer who has been trying to make sure that people pay for parking, not park where they're not supposed to park, blocking fire hydrants and such. And I give that person a lot of credit to get that seen him at work. And of course, our other officers at work as well. They are very cordial and polite to people who are sometimes very angry and do a terrific job. As I said, it's a tremendous burden to the whole time the way that the court operation, but the volume that's court operation. And at some point, we're just going to fall very, very far.
Thank you, Tom. Any other public comment?
I can fire on.
I got it.
So, we're talking for each.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for letting me your requests. And 11.5. Right, it's a little too small.
Thank you. You leave one for the village attorney. If not, I'll, never mind.
I have, I figured out 8. I kind of made a slight error in my mind about how many questions there are. Okay, I can use the county, our town. Anyway. Thank you. I'm Jessie Ravage. I'm at 34 Delaware Street in Cooperstown, since 1998. I'm here to ask the trustees to consider ways to reduce the use of recreational wood burning fire pits in the village. Like many municipalities in the state, Cooperstown relies on section 307 of the state fire code to regulate recreational wood burning fire pits. The code namely addresses potential loss of property through poor siting and lack of oversight by fire pit owners. While it does prohibit open burning that is offensive or objectionable, that is a gray area. Burning fire pits create localized wood smoke, smell as much as the wood smoke in Canada, and the smell persists after the fire pit goes out, sometimes for several hours. And on wind direction, how long it's burning, the variety of things. Every year, more village residents buy into this and sell around a campfire. Walking around the village on any summer evening, you can smell the smoke in most neighborhoods. Numerous third-party studies show that wood smoke, while natural, it is bad for it. If you smell wood smoke, it is damaging your lungs with particulate matter. It may be poisoning you too, because it carries toxins. Some of these toxins are 17 and formaldehyde are known for today. The EPA identifies children and other people, especially those with compromised lung function, as being at the highest risk. The 2020 census recorded that nearly a quarter of households in this county include children under 18.
Nearly a third of households included at least one person over 55. That suggests an elevated risk of terminal smoke versus half of the town household. In summer, it's been shown on several occasions to avoid being outdoors, both of our houses and non-filtration system to reduce exposure of any AQI above 100 feet medium wide smoke. I'm worried he's gonna be cranky about this, but I've talked with others who are experiencing local smoke exposure too. Recreational wood burning fire pits are as harmful as second cigarette smoke, much less much more so than charcoal and gas grills, which are in higher temperature and so pose a lower health risk. But in that small town way, we're avoiding confrontation and putting up with a shared public welfare. Recreational wood burning fire pits in Memphis, other places like the village clearly impinge on human rights and the neighbors to peacefully enjoy their property, especially at time of year when you want to be outdoors. We can't do much about Canadian wildfires, but we can take action to protect village residents from those not married by recreation and burning fire pits. This is about the human right to a healthful environment. Encourage the village trustees to go beyond fire code to without protect property, act on their mandate to protect village residents and identify locally generated risks to our health. Few municipalities in the state are already going beyond the state building code. I've provided a list of lists on that that includes two of them. The problem is growing in Village Town, and it turns out I'm not alone in making the kind of things that happen. Education seems to be the first step. Some ideas is right. On the back of the sheet, I've given you links for a variety of things. One of them is section 707 of the New York State Fire Code. There are articles. Go back as far as 2007, they are getting more and more amount. They're getting more and more detailed. The most recent ones are at the top. Have a look at them. Check them out. This is not pretty. It's not good. You don't want this. And finally, there are potential sites on sample ordinances. They're already approved in the state of New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Jensen.
I can get one the eight.
And
I have
my glasses.
Oh.
Yeah, question, Ellen.
Yes, you may ask.
Jesse, I'm totally, personally, I'm in total agreement. Let's say we outlawed it. How do we enforce that? I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying, what is your suggestion of that?
First thing to do is to talk about educating people about it. I think there are plenty of people who think, oh, it's natural, it can't possibly be harmful. And they don't know the sources, they don't know what they're doing. So the first thing to do is to talk about this, possibly in the newspaper. Village Voices could go farther than just saying, we have a fire code and you're not supposed to do this, which I know you started. I think that talking about this to children and older people is important, especially, I'm now over 65, for God's sake. But anyway, it's all over the place. And I think at that point, what you then do is you sort of ask, I think that maybe just ask people to say to talk to their neighbors, and if their neighbors won't comply, then you can say, I think I'm going to call police. This is how decibel sound is dealt with. This is how many other local neighborhood troubles are addressed. Talk to your neighbors, the other one bothers you, then they really a lot, and eventually there is a lot, and then you go with them. It's something you really have. So, but I think that it's first about raising the awareness. I don't think that we can just calm down, go hard and say what's happening a lot. I think this is something that probably will come out. Yeah. We talked about it over the winter and about it's something that we start raising rent out west and I know that you can sometimes San Francisco, he doesn't live there. But they have they have wildfires up there. It's much easier in west because people are very aware of wildfires. They're more aware of what's going on a regular basis. But there are places, there are houses in the village where they're experiencing smoke as bad or worse. There is a time when that's what you are. Windows, when it's going off, you want to open your house up, but if you can't do it. We do, you know, and many things with that.
Are you willing to lead the charge on this, notice?
Yes, I don't, regardlessly, yes, I live in a place where there is a crime center and she did my up. I know that went on to tape, but so I want to be careful, but yes, I am willing to be in partnership with somebody else, because that is really important.
We will refer it to a committee, so I think the committee may end up calling on your knowledge, so you can work with them in that.
I would like to ask a question, point of clarification. So there are many people in the village who during the cold weather heat
Yes.
at least fully or partially with wood.
That's above, that's mostly going above, it's higher than the house, that's the first thing. There are, some of the laws are about the principles of outside.
Right, and we don't allow them in the
Right.
village.
In general, the problem that we have with the wood burning pits, the fire is that people tend to burn. Well, redwood, they want to burn a lot of pine, and not burning hardwood, if you don't burn pine, you do a firewood. So then those trees, your house will burn down.
No, I just wanted to check too,
Yeah.
that your concern was particularly with outdoor recreational fire.
Recreational.
At a lower level.
At a
Yeah.
limit.
Blanket in here. And then just, it's like, okay. No, long down.
I'm about to,
Okay,
is there anyone else who has public comment today? Yeah. Anyone else? We do have a public hearings which will be opened at 6:30 relative to our New York State grants through the consolidated funding application, as well as our public hearing left open from our 6:22 meeting. But the public comment was closed at the last meeting. It will be opened again at 6:30. I'm going to close the public comment section of the meeting if there's no one else. Before we move on too much, I am going to refer the recreational wood burning fire pits in Cooperstown to Community and Environment Committee. I am going to refer the both the letter written by Eric Page and Chuck Page back to Water and Sewer. I know you have discussed it, and it's certainly in the minutes. But all the documents that have been provided will be shared with Water and Sewer, and we would like a recommendation from them on how it is. And then the other one is the parking tickets with the town of Otsego. Perhaps that should just be a public safety with some other member discussion. I think it's important to realize for those who are newer to the board that for many years, the village of Cooperstown had their own court. It was about 2013 that I wasn't there, that the village abolished their courts. And when that happens, when a municipality held within the town of Otsego, town of Middlefield abolishes our court, any of our infractions are processed by them. That's New York state law. We just don't have that court. It's, if that it is a concern, we do have the parking tickets. But if we have a stop sign and someone runs a stop sign, we don't get funds from that. It goes to the town and the state. If someone speeds in the village, we don't get that. So the only revenue we can keep is the one that is particular to regulations that we have, which pertain to our parking regs, speeding, running stop signs, etc. None of those are, the town does keep all that revenue. So our police are spending their time, as we've asked them to do, to make sure that people are stopping at stop signs and not running them, and or are not speeding as they come in from various entries. Yes.
We did talk about this at Streets a little because Tom had originally come to Streets, and it seems one of the questions is whether there is a way to automate some of the process so that it doesn't require so much manual entry.
I think that the one thing that would be very good to get, our parking enforcement officer is really Brad, is very knowledgeable with the passport system. And interestingly, they can walk down the street and literally see that tickets they wrote 10 minutes ago are being paid online. But I will point out that there are local residents who are not as computer savvy,
Mhm.
including some elderly people who are actually like in their 90s and got a parking ticket and had no idea how to do that on their phone, and were incredibly comforted by being able to go to a Fly Creek, a court, say, I didn't realize this, and then it can be adjudicated at that point. They always have that right, but we all do as citizens, to have them adjudicated in person if they want. So I would hesitate to see the total elimination of
No,
payment.
I agree, but Tom had said at streets, and then it was said again tonight, and I don't remember whether Deb or Tom said it, that every ticket, regardless of how it's being paid, has to be individually manually entered into the system, and that seems like we're missing the boat on something.
Somebody has to make.
I think there has to be greater
Yeah.
clarification. So I do think we may need Chad or Brad to do a presentation
Yeah.
so that we have a complete understanding of the processing, because the passport app has changed since we first
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, my impression from the remarks by both was not an issue with passport. It's with the town's accounting system, or the state oversight of that requires their manual entry of these fines and payments, not irrespective of whether they've been processed electronically through passport's most efficient means. And the numbers that stuck out for me were 2,900 tickets on course to be 4,000 tickets. So the anecdotal evidence of another individual having a problem, that's not what they're contending with. They're contending with this huge volume, which again, I noted, they reported took 80% of the court clerk's time to do these entries, while the other substantive legal problems, there's the most details there, remain pending. So
Yeah.
I thought that Passport talked to the court software, so that's why I'm confused. I thought there was a way for the two to communicate that didn't require what they're talking about. So it's just a question to ask.
yeah, right, and what I'm thinking is, it's not between Passport and the court, it's between the court and the state. So the court has to manufacture a record.
That's exactly right. The comptroller does not have access to passport. That court has the responsibility to upload the numbers, specifically the numbers
So
to.
that's why they're
the comptroller.
specifically asking us to staff that effort.
Yeah, yeah,
But maybe
And-
there's an automated way around it. I can't imagine that there's.
yeah.
not at this
I
point.
do know that the town of Otsego did mention that they put $15,000 in their budget to try and, because often have been two clerks, an assistant or someone hired just for the summer months. That position was never filled. I would, and so that money just sat there in the budget. It would be conducive to find someone.
The other issue in my mind is when we said 4,000 tickets. I was surprised it was so little in the past. Now, what's the ticket then? $30, $35? 40. Okay, if we collected on that, that's $160,000. So we have to look at the investment of bringing somebody in to help us collect it, and the cost of our EEOs to see whether it break even points, so to speak. Now, I hear Tom, and I heard him before, I heard him privately, and I heard him today here. This is the lowest priority for our court, and legitimately so. Are we losing stuff? Are we losing income by that being the situation? And if we are, then we may have to consider getting involved.
I understand, having, been married to a judge. This app is not one you need to be sitting over there at the court. It's on your court computer, your laptop. You could sit in the evening and adjudicate tickets. And so it's not as much sitting at that court doing it. It's more, it is a certain amount of processing because people will dispute them.
Right, well, yes, and what I was hearing was a clear distinction between the moving violations, the speeding tickets, the traffic stops, the money that you said goes to the town and we don't get back. This was all about parking tickets.
Correct, but the mention was made that the town gets no revenue from our parking.
Right.
Right, and we get no, even though we pay the police officers to ticket speeders, people who don't stop at signs. We had our own port, we would keep that fine money too. They benefit from that fine money.
Right, but it's irrelevant to this discussion.
To a degree.
No, it's not. I agree with you. It's not irrelevant.
But we have, what I'm trying to say is that when we close our courts, we take advantage when we pay taxes and we contribute to the town's ability to have a port. So we have the benefit of that and we're paying in apartments. It is, if we're gonna look at this fairly and try to come up with a solution, it is about the parking ticket matter that is exclusively the province of and the benefit to the super staff. And they're bearing that external burden, and the question is, if you think about that, to use that administrative burden and speed the recovery of the loan. We don't lose the money, we'll never lose the money, but the pace at which we obtain it.
But I clearly see Ellen's point. We are paying for police services that they get the benefit of. And as you know, when I was chairman of public safety, and I realized I'm a bit draconian, just the other day, I was walking across a crosswalk. And one of the cars, the black cars associated with the Hall of Fame transport just raced across. Now, I walk with a cane, I was in the crosswalk, he sped up and sort of half went around. I want to see these people ticketed. If I could have gotten the license plate number, I only got a partial one, I would have made a complaint. I'm not against, for public safety purposes, going out there and ticketing violations. Because that will stop, it may come down that we lose money because we decrease the violations. But that's the only thing that I think will decrease the violations, but that will bring money to the town to pay back their costs of having port.
Okay, we've closed the public comment, we referred this, and as I say, maybe a presentation by Brad, demonstration of the program, et cetera, for the court and for us would be beneficial. The water one's going there, and the fire pits is going to community and environment. Rather than to proceed to the agenda, it is now 6:34, and I'm going to open the public hearing for New York State grants through the consolidated funding application. We will note that we always kind of put it on here thinking, are we actually going to be doing any? We did submit grants, as you know, that had a much earlier deadline, July 12th or June 12th and June 22nd. The deadline for CFA applications would be July 31st, it's Friday at 4. I did not find any. Has anybody else been working on any? No. So, that, we can close the public hearing on the CFA. Moving on, the public hearing left open from 6/22/26. Proposed local law number 4 of 2026, and then section 233-3, smoking and vaping law. The revised wording is in your packet. This is slightly less lenient, so this is allowed these changes from the posted public hearing in June. And it essentially has the first paragraph, the following buildings is the word that's been added, owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape free zones. So from this point on, is the new wording. Water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, streets building, fire hall. The supervisor or chief at each of these buildings may designate an exterior area on the property away from building windows and ventilation systems to allow staff to smoke. That is the wording. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this? Maybe anyone?
You'll get a bill later.
It's happened on my property tax bill.
Water and sewer.
Sorry. I was a member of the Cooperstown Fire Department for a long time, also a member of the emergency squad for a long time. I was a member, of course, when they still played pornographic movies and had an open and had a egg test in the fire hall all the time, but they've come along slowly.
They're growing.
Pardon me?
They're growing.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it was an interesting time, if you ever want to hear that story. I'm concerned about this because one thing that was not addressed in that is smoking in the vehicle that belong to the fire department. That's not been addressed at all. And that is a concern. No one should have to get into a vehicle to respond to something and be overwhelmed by stale, nasty cigarette smoke. So that is a concern that I think you've totally missed. Secondly, and it happens, believe me, they go on standby for fire police and they sit there and smoke in the vehicles. I've personally seen it and I've certainly heard it. So I think you need to revise this right away to say there will be no smoking in or around any of the fire department vehicles. Secondly, as we just heard from Jessie, and you missed it, Martin, but she just went through the whole thing about how fire pits have smoke that stays low on the ground, and she just went through this whole thing. And yet you're still proposing that people be allowed to have areas around the fire hall that people can smoke. Now, there's a big wall out back, and so that will hold the smoke down inside. This is ludicrous. This is public health. As Jessie was saying, you have an obligation to the citizens of this community to take public health seriously. Allowing smoking in half of the buildings and not, or in half of the areas and not the other half is a cop-out. It's simply a cop-out because a couple of people want to smoke at the fire hall. And so the village board is copping out, allowing designated smoking areas. That is not in the best interest of anyone. And it needs to be addressed. My daughter Beth is no longer going to the fire hall. Beth gets 2 allergy shots every week. I have terrible allergies. I lived up in that stuff for years. There are other people who are sick. This should not be dealing with cigarette smoke on a voluntary basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I will leave it open for 5 more minutes in case anyone arrives a little bit later, but we can certainly begin discussion.
I have a question for Martin. When we have a claim, a health claim by a firefighter, there's a policy, for example, interior firefighters, if they develop cancer, make a claim against our insurance, which insurance is that one? Or
Whose insurance?
So isn't there insurance? that-
We pay for additional policies on our firefighters.
Now, is that limited by to people who smoke? You know, do we look at people who intentionally increase their risk versus people who don't have a risk?
I think it covers everyone if they develop, and it's attributable to their time and service.
Well, that's the point. How can you determine? You know, when dealing with a smoker and they come across and say, hey, I've been a firefighter. And let's face it, it's a couple of interior fires a year, maybe, versus smoking a pack a day, every day. What's it likely to be? So I think we have a significant interest, both economically and otherwise, in banning smoking, especially around other people. I cannot tolerate smoking. I mean, I have allergies and I get sick. And I have some respiratory problems. And I don't think anybody should have to deal with unnecessary smoking. And if the threat is, well, we'll quit. You know, everybody's always got a threat to us about what they're gonna do that's gonna hurt us. Sorry, okay, thank you.
That's one of the issues we're dealing with. There is a continued, there's a only smoke and walking out in the morning. Or there's some significant concern about that because they are of a high skill level.
What about people
Can I
who?
wait just a sec? I have left it open. Were you wishing to say something? Yeah.
Regardless of high skill level. That's clearly operational need ahead of public health and safety. I worked in Cooperstown Medical Transport for many years, along with my mother. And unfortunately, we had to terminate people over health and safety. But we couldn't compromise health and safety for operational readiness. And we ran short crews and we had to pay overtime, but we could not, as an organization's leadership, compromise health and safety. I read you my letter last month. I've also written a letter to membership because this did go back for a vote. And I'd like to share that.
Please.
I'm writing to clearly explain my position regarding reducing vote on smoking on fire department property. I do so because I do not want my concerns to be dismissed as disappointment over the outcome of a vote or characterized by as a personal grievance. My concern is not that the vote did not go the way I had hoped. My concern is that the decision reflects the failure of governance and leadership. The executive board's primary responsibility is to make this department into the future. That responsibility extends well beyond managing day-to-day operations. Effective governance requires leaders to protect the long-term health, integrity, and sustainability of the organization. The fundamental responsibilities of any governing board include governance, compliance, fiduciary oversight, and most importantly, in a fire department, protecting the health, safety, and wellness of its members. In my opinion, this last responsibility where our leadership is falling short. During the discussion regarding smoking on fire department property, the word compromise was used repeatedly. I struggle to understand how the health and safety of our members can be compromised. Health and safety should not be negotiable, nor should they be subject to majority rule. The fact that a vote was taken does not change the obligation of leadership to protect those they have been entrusted to serve. Leadership is expected to identify unnecessary hazards and reduce or eliminate them whenever reasonably possible. That is not merely an operational mandate. It is a moral and ethical responsibility. Allowing smoking on fire department property creates a preventable health hazard. Choosing not to address that hazard is not a neutral decision. It is an affirmative decision to continue exposing members and visitors to a known risk. My concern extends beyond smoking itself. What troubles me the most is that the precedent that was established that operational convenience, not alienating daytime responders who smoke, or organizational preference, voting on the allowability or location of smoking, can outweigh member health and well-being. This is a dangerous message. Leadership demonstrates its values long before the tones go off. If we are willing to place operational considerations ahead of member wellness in the meeting room, what assurance do we have that those same priorities will not influence decisions made on emergency scenes when stress is high and the consequences are immediate? Fire ground command is built upon one fundamental principle. Life safety is always the highest priority. That philosophy should begin at the fire hall. The values demonstrated in governance become the values demonstrated on the fire ground. The executive board has both a moral and fiduciary duty to provide a workplace that is safe and as healthy as reasonably possible. We've routinely invested in protective equipment, cancer prevention initiatives, and firefighter safety training because we recognize that protecting our members is not optional. It is our obligation. We emphasize gross decontamination, clean cat concepts, lethal exhaust reduction, annual physicals, and reducing carcinogen exposure because we recognize that firefighter health matters. To simultaneously acknowledge those risks while committing another avoidable carcinogen exposure on target property sends a conflicting message about our commitment to firefighter health. It undermines the culture of safety we work so hard to build. This letter is not intended to criticize individuals or question anyone's motives. I believe every member of our executive board genuinely cares about this department. However, carrying it out in an organization and exercising effective governance are not always the same thing. Leadership requires the willingness to make decisions that protect the future of the organization and the people who serve it, even when those decisions are difficult or unpopular. However, when those decisions involve health, safety, and well-being of our members, I believe our leadership has an obligation to lead rather than simply count votes. I deeply appreciate the dedication of those who volunteer their time to serve this community. My comments are offered not to divide membership, but because I believe we can and should hold ourselves to a higher standard. My disappointment is not rooted in the outcome of the vote. It is rooted in what I believe that vote represents. A missed opportunity for leadership to affirm that health, safety, and well-being of every member are not negotiable. I hope the executive board and membership will continue this conversation, not to revisit a single vote, but to reaffirm the principles that should guide every decision made on behalf of this department. If we expect our officers to place firefighter safety above all else on the emergency scene, we should expect the same commitment from our governing body. Respectfully, that.
You do that.
I'll comment. So I agree with Margaret about vehicles. I don't think we had even really thought about vehicles when we were crafting this policy, and I think that's an important consideration.
It was brought up in building, I did.
Vehicles?
And the thought, I think I was poo-pooed that it was people getting in the equipment with jackets on. I said, no, it isn't.
When we had first crafted this for public hearing, it was not part of the discussion. It has been subsequent to that. Yeah, and I agree with it. I think vehicles should be addressed.
When I did my first.
Yeah, the very first.
Let me try to state this again. When we first crafted this to set a public hearing, it was not part of the discussion
The
at that
vehicles.
time. Correct. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I think it would be wonderful if none of our volunteer firefighters smoked. I also think that would be wonderful, our village employees. So while we focused a lot on the fire hall, we have employees, people who work for the village who smoke as well. And having watched, as I said previously, Bassett go through this process when it became a smoke-free campus, and having watched employees of Bassett step feet, inches off of Bassett property onto adjoining neighbors' property to smoke, I am concerned that if we don't designate a space for people to smoke on our own property, that they will step in front of mills at 22, for instance, or step onto county property, or step onto someone else's property to exercise their bad habit. And that also doesn't support public health and safety. I was in Watertown at the county building in Watertown, and they've clearly had a very similar discussion. And they have put up, as Bassett has done, ventilated smoking spaces that have smoke drawing equipment that and it was very well labeled and there were lots of signs, which is why I think that they have had a similar
Outside
discussion
the building.
outside of the building.
What does that mean? To have some sort of system that draws the smoke out?
What does it mean?
Yeah, like what does it cost? What does it? look
Well,
like?
there's
Could we
undoubtedly
consider that?
there is undoubtedly a cost associated with it.
Right.
These look remarkably like our trolley shelters, to be quite honest, except they're more enclosed and they have a ventilation system that is part of it. But I am really concerned about sending this problem on to others.
Yeah, because I noticed,
I would think that scientifically, it vents through a system that goes through charcoal or some
I
other
would-
solid pickup to remove the smoke.
and even with these buildings too, at Bassett that are supposedly helping draw up all the smoke, I do notice that employees are standing not underneath the buildings, but feet away from the buildings
Yeah.
in the designated smoke area. So that could cause an issue too if people are really not in that designated area. My understanding was two people maybe that smoke on the.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, and I sympathize, and I think it would be easier to just say no smoke.
And
I mean, it is an issue, and does seem contradictory to what that, especially that department is doing.
Don't?
There's a lot that we've been made to think about, and I've been made to think about. I think the first strategic mistake we made is was to allow this problem back to the fire department. This is our first responsibility in terms of public health and safety. By sending it back down to the fire department, we actually kind of legitimized a choice.
Right.
When I think most of us believe that that is not a choice that's in the interest of public health. It's to smoke. So I think that was not a mistake. I think we sent the wrong message by.
I do think it came via the fire department. We weren't even thinking about per se, our two employees, because they don't tend to smoke in our building.
Right, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, we have cohorts of youth coming up, the smoking among the younger people, there may be dating and so forth, but the example today is not the movies of the 1940s where everybody's lighting up a cigarette every time they turn around. We're promoting a different kind of health culture. So I don't see that there's really space in our law for designating smoking spots. And to Molly's point, the signs I see on the Bassett campus are the ones, please stay away from this ventilation shaft because you're drawing smoke into it. It's not saying it's a smoking area. It's saying we probably suspect you're out here on this sidewalk smoking.
No, Bassett has smoking areas.
They do? Well, that isn't one of them I see, but
No.
in any event, I do think that our duty as the Board of Trustees was to be the first line of defense, example, policy on smoking. And I think everybody has to make their own choice. We talked about the people who are most operational, who would be qualified or most experienced. I appreciate that. I would never gainsay it. But I see people coming up behind them who want to learn and don't want the victim to secondhand smoke. And it's, as we know from the fire down at the hotel, I mean, the acridity of that smoke today, or the remnant of that fire is really pronounced. So for people who commit themselves to put themselves in harm's way and fight a fire to then try to accommodate smoking is a problem for me. The second thing is, or it's not the second, another, you mentioned the insurance and the cancer coverage, and I don't know, I haven't studied our policy in that regard. But does it have mention in terms of premium costs, whether or not you have a no smoking campus for your requirement?
I've looked at it, Joe, it doesn't, but
Okay.
probably will sooner or later from an insurance company's perspective.
So I have to say, on balance, I'm quite persuaded by the idea that we should advance it.
Can I also ask, do we have any incentives for employees? And maybe it would cover the volunteer fire department members to quit smoking? To quit smoking, do we have an incentive program that rewards people for? I mean, maybe we're not large enough to offer that kind of program, but.
Is that not counterproductive though? The people who don't smoke are gonna say, like, why are you giving them a reward? Stop smoking when I stop smoking already. I mean,
We're giving assistance.
Yeah. It's pretty
It's
easy to not have it in buildings.
Oh, yeah,
Essentially,
that's-
we have been in violation of the New York State Indoor Clean Air Act that was passed in 2003. So for 23 years, we have not codified exactly what New York State recommends. I will say the county was prompt and did it in 2003. But you see all these individuals on the county lawn, just outside the building, potentially near windows, etc., smoking. It's not a clean cut thing necessarily.
But of all the places, the fire department and EMS, which are there to help people with related health issues and safety issues.
and the
Seems
effort
counter-
to go to make sure that they are not deal with contaminated
Right, right.
equipment and material that are
Right.
contaminated by properties of, fires. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? It's true, it doesn't make a lot of sense. How many people is this involved, George?
At the fire department?
Yeah.
Just two.
Is what we understood too.
Is that right?
Only two village employees.
Not a bad idea to draw the line in the sand.
What?
It's not a bad idea to draw the line in the sand and say, all right, we're smoking.
I'm sorry, I mean, we appreciate everything you've done, we appreciate your skill level. But I've talked to you about this issue of being held hostage by key employees. And the minute that's happened to me, and it's cost me a lot of money at times, the answer is go and be one. I don't like being held hostage to that concept that I'm indispensable. If we have to do something different, we'll do something different. The county has to figure out how it's gonna supply fire services in the future, which should be an ongoing discussion, but isn't yet. They'll have to deal with that. But I think we're better off I think we're better off for setting the standard and keeping it that way.
If I could just add one thing, this is not, in my view, about being punitive or singling out individuals. We're trying to create a healthy environment, so a vote to ban smoking is not personal criticism.
No,
Right. But I thought we gave the program help and stuff, would be great.
I will say, having been married to someone who smoked for much of his life, stopping smoking is not something that you don't fight every day for years.
Yeah.
oh, it's more,
they
it's
still-
an addictive substance, it's worse
Yeah.
than crack cocaine. Easier to quit crack cocaine than it is to quit smoking.
It's like you said, Cindy, they still crave it. I know someone that has quit smoking for 25 years now, and she still says she still feels the urge to smoke.
I have seen people though who have smoked, who were able to just stop.
No, that's true.
I mean. You're.
We had a version of the law last month, which this board did not approve. That essentially was the same as the second line in what you have in your packet, the second paragraph. These village-owned properties are all also, designated as smoke and tree zones, and it was the building and land. And this board did not approve that last month, so that was the law as advertised. I would need a motion to make that the law with that wording, the same as we saw last month. Jenna, you don't have it digitally that you could just pop up, do you? We were able to tweak this because you can always, after you remember, advertise the public hearing, you can make it less restrictive, and this was considered less restrictive. This is how we could do it, but it was advertised initially. Do you understand? It's less restricted to
Yes.
say just the building is less restricted than building and land.
No, I understand that, but I think, well, I am leaning towards making it more restrictive, so.
You're to what was advertised.
To what was advertised.
To advertise
Absolutely.
initially, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That, I was just wondering if we had that original one here. It's not. That was the original? Okay, thank you.
And vehicle. And vehicles. Yeah.
Who else was?
Well, so then we would,
Yeah, now you're making it.
yeah, then we'd have to re-advertise.
Yeah.
Have to re-advertise it.
I think we need to re-advertise it.
And the consensus is it's building and land as well as vehicles.
Yeah.
And the vehicles would make it, we would have to re-advertise if we include vehicles.
Super.
All right,
I move that we set a public hearing to that effect.
I second
we'll
that.
set a public hearing for our August. Is that 25th? Meeting 24.
I'll second Richard's motion. I just want to make sure they're on the language. We're talking about properties and vehicles, buildings, properties and vehicles. How are we gonna write this up for the next hearing so that it's?
Right now, the first version, we essentially have the land, because if you look at that second paragraph, what you have in your hand, village hall and adjoining land. The first version.
The first
had-
version, not this version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the first version had all of this, the following. Buildings and land owned by the village are, so it included the land. But what's making it different is this includes vehicles. Yeah, so that's what would have to be changed.
Do we have to say vehicles owned by the village? Oh, it's in there. Okay,
They're all, I mean,
right.
we can't control vehicles that are not owned.
No, of course not. I just didn't know if it was in there owned by, what is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so motion was made and seconded to revise it, to make it more restrictive, including not. To not include
And to set a
vehicles, or
public
to
hearing.
include vehicles, to set the public hearing at the August 24th meeting at 6:30 p.m. All right, motion made and seconded, all in favor? Joe seconded it
I made it.
and Richard made it. All right, thank you. Moving on, we'll go back on your agenda. We have, where did? We have correspondence, letter from Jarrett Wholetailing, Hemlock Hill Water Services confirming the end of the contract, but remaining available to the village. Email from Tony and Jane regarding village docks, and an email from Jay Smith, Sports and Pedal Tours, regarding the his request to them on Main Street. during holiday production weekend. Moving on, I will move that we approve the minutes from our June 22nd regular meeting with corrections submitted. Second by Joe or all in favor. Aye.
And I abstained because I
I
was there.
abstain. The two who were out has been abstained. Moving on to permits, email from Evan Jacobs requesting that the fee be waived for his application to use the Park, Pioneer Park on August 27, 2026 for a free concert.
So moved.
So moved by Cindy, second by
Molly, sorry.
Molly, I'm like, what? Oh, I'm gonna call you. All in favor?
Aye.
Trademark license agreement short form from Destination Marketing Corp. 20 Chestnut Street for photos and video for the purpose of promoting Otsego County tourism. This is occurring at Doubleday Field, which is of course trademark.
So moved with the box under number 3 checked.
Yes, the box that is for advertising, so they do not owe the royalty fee. I'll second that, all in favor?
Aye.
They also need a supplemental building permit application for the asset generation shoot 2026 for the week of September 21st, including double day field usage from 7 a.m. until 10 a.m. on September 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
So moved with the drone information provided to Marcia.
Second.
Second by Joe, all in favor? And I stuck this under hardball, this came up recently because a past trustee happened to mention that when the village approved the on-street dining for Hardball Cafe back in 2015, that property initially had 3 parking places where they have kind of closed it with their tent and now make that a summertime restaurant. And they were required by the village board at that time, 2015, to sign an agreement with some other place that at that time, it happened to be the owner of the Baddie Grain to park 3 vehicles, and the cost was $300 a month for those summer months when they did that. And that lasted. I don't think we ever asked for documentation, it was paid, that's an interesting side thing. But supposedly that contract was in effect from 2015 to 2020. I looked through the minutes, we approved the on-street dining application in 2015. And we approved it in 2021, but in 2021, the only stipulation we put on it was to make sure that their liquor license indicated they could sell liquor, serve it on the street, on the public street in front of their business. We did not say you need to provide free off-site parking places. So we need to make a determination on that because we've already obviously authorized their on street again. So the board needs to discuss this.
Now,
and think
now
of
these
it.
parking places are village parking spots?
No, it could have been anywhere. He chose, he had I guess, a relationship with the man who at that time owned the batting range.
Yeah.
And it was on one side of the building.
No, but I'm saying, what are the parking spots that were?
They were his property, they were on his property, he wanted to extend his restaurant out.
But was he obligated to have parking spots? for
But
it?
historically, that when that was a bank, that's Pioneer Alley is a public street. Those were public parking place.
That's what I'm getting. Those were public parking spots. What
They
There
had been-
is privately
They're private.
owned.
Yeah.
but we use them as public parking space.
In the
Were
off
they? I,
No,
No, it's in summer.
he used them as employee parking spaces.
yeah,
And then,
They're in his survey. I'm
Right.
sure we talked about that at the time.
right, but when they existed as parking spaces, his employee, like they were not public parking spaces.
Okay,
They were
he may have used them for,
private for
that
his
purpose.
employees.
okay,
Yeah.
but that's because they were his.
Right.
we
Exactly.
required him then to, you know, because
Replace
otherwise he
them.
would have been bumping.
Right, but logically, they had to be private spaces, if they were public
Right.
spaces, you couldn't require him to make.
Right.
No.
Right.
Right.
I don't understand how we can require him to have spaces anymore.
He was giving up 3 of his private spaces and he agreed to.
This is an agreement. This is basically a contractual deal. It's not.
It was.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, in exchange for his zoning permit.
Okay.
But I'm not sure I understand what the issue is.
It expired. His
No, I
arrangement
understand that
expired.
Expired, but this is between, I mean, who owns the property now? Who owns those?
Here.
Are you talking about where he rented the spaces?
Yeah,
A different individual owns the property. He had the option of going to,
Vinnie
Vinnie Russo owns the Chestnut Street parking.
Mhm.
There were a couple of private lots in town he could have, you know, paid for parking.
but I'm sorry, I don't mean to be dense, I do not,
Much in the minutes, I looked.
So,
I don't
so
understand what
okay.
the issue is here.
when he created the outdoor restaurant,
Right,
that area was part patio and part parking.
right, I understand.
He wanted to make it a restaurant.
Right.
And one of the zoning boards, I believe it was the planning board, but it may have been the ZBA, said it may have been the ZBA because they have this clause that they can deal with this particular type of issuance in the business district. If you're gonna take away the parking that you have, further contributing to the lack of parking in the business district, you have to provide off-site parking to replace it. So we entered into this agreement, which has since expired. And I think part of the reason that this is coming up is because it is very clear that now the employees who work at that particular establishment do not have a place to park. So they're kind of like trying to squeeze in on public property as opposed to having a designated space.
There was just that one vehicle which has now been relocated, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Yes.
Yes, can I ask another question to that company? I thought there was an issue of vending alcohol on the narrow strip of sidewalk in front of the public bank as opposed to in the hardball cafe. I'm just remembering that because I thought I saw alcohol being served at the 3 tables.
If he has appropriate permitting, he can do that.
And that's why Cindy in that one motion asked that his liquor license stipulate that.
And we have, we assume that's been.
When he submits his permit, it says on it.
Well, okay, I haven't studied. Okay, I don't want to dwell on it. It was just
Yeah.
something that I remember. What it was.
Well, maybe this is worth a conversation of our CEO to just be, who would not have known any of this history. I think that to a degree, when I mentioned it this morning,
I had
no one
forgotten
kind
that.
of remembered it. So
Yeah.
it was brought up by a past trustee.
It was
who
clear.
wondering. So good memory on
Yeah.
that person's part. And I think that we probably should refer this to our CEO and brief him on this information and have him follow up with where are your employees, where are you providing parking for your staff? Okay, so everyone good with that? All right. Moving on, we have our zoning official report. And we received that report and we can review that. If there are no questions, I will move on to the planning board made a recommendation. And that was also in your packet for that temporary use permit law increased from 7 events in a calendar year to 12. Wasn't that 12 or 15?
No, but only for nonprofit organizations. So I will make a motion that we set a public hearing to consider that change and also notify the planning department in Otsego County of the proposed change.
I'll second that, all in favor? And was there also, were we interested in setting a fee for a temporary use permit?
Or there's no fees that, fees technically.
I would suggest for a nonprofit that we just charge the $25 application fee. I think we could talk further about a for-profit business and what they should be paying. It might be like the vending fee, which is $100.
Yeah,
Can I note that in this letter, it says within a calendar year beginning August 25th and ending August 26th the following year.
And that was the last one we discussed about.
Right, this is a separate.
No, but I mean, the dates are wrong.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
Yeah, we know that, okay.
Yeah. We're not discussing this path letter right now, we're discussing.
Correct.
Sorry, but I won't get to that when we get to that. We'll discuss it when we get to the Bassett letter.
I think we already dealt with the Bassett letter last month.
Yeah.
Why is it?
a reference for the fee, and attach the fee schedule in their application, that was fun.
Well, maybe someone can someone clarify, or refresh my recollection, the way this is written right now, a straddle in a calendar year, there will be 20 events permitted. Is that what we intended in a calendar year?
No, we made a motion that they could have up to 7 in a calendar year, which is what the law.
Okay, so this is. Okay,
So we did not grant what the letter said. We stuck with our law.
we specified,
And then
yeah.
we sent things to the planning board. So can we set the fines first? That seems like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That seemed good. So for a temporary use permit, I make a motion that the applicant pay the non-refundable filing fee of $25, that nonprofit applicants pay no additional fees, and that for-profit applicants pay $100 permit fee.
All right, I would second that.
and the discussion, that's for each event. For each for each temporary use permit.
For the permit. I was not thinking per event.
Okay, so a permit could be issued for more than one event,
Or more than one day for an event extended over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
or discontinuous stays, that's what I mean about
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Any question?
Any other discussion on that? All right. That was the motion. We did.
It was second.
We seconded it. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion to accept zoning official report by Molly, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Some of the police, Officer Caroline O'Reilly is now assigned full-time and she should begin to address staffing issues to some degree for us. The feedback I get from the officer she works with and the officer in charge, she does an extraordinary job. So we're very pleased with that. The Hall of Fame weekend went very, very well. There was one reported incident regarding the theft of a trailer hitch from one of the vending trucks in Doubleday Field.
Somebody stole the hitch.
Just a hitch.
Just a hitch. However, the same business reported something similar last year. And there is some strong feelings that trying to scam, an insurance claim of some sort. So,
Or an excuse not to move their vehicle.
or like you say, leave the vehicle there for, the duration, whatever that duration might be. On the fire side of the equation, we had the fire at Lakefront. Preliminary assessment, it was electrical in nature. There was one Milford firefighter who seemed to be overcome a little bit by the smoke, or feeling lightheaded and the like. He was transported to Bassett Hospital and released. There were several induction-related assignments over the course of the induction weekend. The White Creek Fire Department assisted during the parade, and Milford insisted during the course of the induction. On the EMS side of the house, during the course of the weekend, there were 35 hours of official standby coverage, 35 EMS providers for the parade, and 52 for the induction. One subject was transported to the hospital during the parade, treated and released. 8 persons were evaluated and treated at the induction site, and again, sometimes sitting out in the heat can overcome people. Those who might be interested, EMS is going to do an after action review on Monday, August 3rd at the fire hall. Anyone on the board wants to attend that. And that's the report. That's all.
So under police, under action items, it says draft electronic records resolution.
Just there that is, pretty and asking for this stuff. He thought we could, put, I don't know, whole village or at least this department to start if he has. This was something he brought back from a training.
I take it there'll be some, how would we go about doing that? With equipment, you mean scanning documents? We don't have.
Paper records, they haven't, they're not. I hadn't verified, I just wanted to put it on the account.
Yeah, thanks. No, I just think you would need to see what staffing and costs are going to get involved in implementing that.
My understanding is it's just things that were born digital as opposed to paper being transferred to digital, but I could be incorrect.
Yeah.
It would be prospective.
Right, I mean, there's a lot of things that we have today that are
Right.
generated digitally.
Perhaps you can ask Jeff for greater clarification and that's all entails. And we can potentially approve it next month. All right. Anything else? All right. Did you also want to do this? Or did you finish all the EMS?
Should all.
Nothing else you wanted to add? No. Motion to accept the public safety report?
And I second it.
Did you hear that, Jenna? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to double day advisory committee.
That's good. So, Purvis, Zach Griffin, I guess there were a number of rollouts in June and July. And they really haven't been able to reschedule it, unfortunately, because of the drainage and the scheduling. He did say that obviously there are areas of flooding that the field needs to be redone, and I did tell him that we were working on a grant to hopefully get some money to maybe redo the pipings and all that for the field. Then we kind of talked about some of the Friends of Doubleday items. Jeff Katz did provide this cool photograph. I want to say this was from the early 1960s, 1970s, that along the third base line, where I guess the
Yeah, so that's, I think, what they told me along the third base line that says Doubleday.
Bring this back.
He wants to
He
bring it
does.
back, but instead of saying the Doubleday Field, home of baseball, he said,
Home of base.
yeah, home of baseball.
Yeah,
It sounded like
we moved away from the.
birthplace.
Birthplace.
Yeah.
I did some digging for him and found a photo as old as 1937
With that sign?
with the sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the Baseball Hall of Fame, people did say that they took that down around 1975-ish, I think, is what they found, so it's been quite a number of years.
Is that a banner or was it on wood or? It was painted on.
Painted. So he was hoping to maybe replicate that, instead of saying the birthplace of baseball, having the home of baseball on a long day.
The great gold paint to go with everything. No, I'm serious.
White paint.
But either statement in this is true. But.
And so,
Field was not for baseball was exempted on.
so they.
But it's a home of
It's
baseball.
a home of baseball.
For the home of baseball. You're not.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Would say.
For American baseball.
It's just a button.
Yeah. But. Yeah, well, it's not accurate.
So like,
That's a different historical marker. Was the cast iron one that used to be on the
Baseball
post.
was invented in. I don't remember. We digress.
Huh?
So he wanted,
Let's let.
so Jeff just wanted me to bring it to you guys to see if maybe you guys would like the idea of having a sign, something like that, saying the home of baseball painted.
It's an attractive, kind of interesting looking sign, I do.
You know, the fact that people in Cooperstown have the vast majority of license plates, say birthplace of baseball, is not correct because they are New York State license plates, which is indeed the birthplace of American baseball.
They're referring to Cooperstown. We know.
And then the
Or
second thing,
Massachusetts.
sorry, the other really big item that we talked about during this meeting was that he was talking about, I guess he's gotten some suggestions from people taking his tours about Doubleday Field that they would maybe want to have like a little museum or something nearby. Yeah.
I actually bring it up to Jeff and the hall at various times, because in the original plan, that was the hope. You know, that they show the original, 1939 stand going up, maybe touch on the Mills Commission. I mean, this is something that the hall could easily work with us. I know he's fixated on the bathrooms, but since 3-4 years ago, the former groundskeeper's office on the left side, the people walk totally past to get to the pavilion, which has 19 new bathrooms in it. That is the space I think we should begin to focus on. Eventually, we may want all of that to be Doubleday Field historical interpretation or something, but that one's already vacant. Doesn't have to be gutted.
Right.
Toilets that sometimes during overflow, or certainly the ones that are being used.
Just like you were saying, he was thinking about getting rid of the old bathrooms under home, where home plate is, and just kind of getting rid of all the toilets and sinks, and maybe somehow getting a wall out or a little door in between the male and female bathrooms. And that way they can have a little area where people can just walk there and then walk through that little door. And but I could bring up the suggestion of maybe moving it to the pavilion.
Well, at least look at that space, which is sat empty and would not require as much building gutting. Cause it's
Not in the pavilion, it's the old ground.
It's 1939.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so as you look at that, you have your pathway through to the field. The right, yes, that's where the bathrooms are. The left were office space and storage equipment space. that all that got moved into the third base pavilion. So that has been empty ever since we opened that pavilion.
Yeah, I could go take a look to see if I can, see
Yeah.
that space and.
That would be a good space and a good point to start with. As I say, people walk by that as they're headed to our ADA compliant bathrooms.
And so that's really the two major things that we talked about. We talked about a couple other old business items, but they went in. That's like the induction and the Major League Wiffle Ball game. And some of the new business we talked about was, I guess, the Otsego Town Court has been getting a couple parking tickets in regards to Doubleday Field. I guess there's some unclear signage or something there that people park in these spots and don't realize they're not actually spots.
It's
As it's fixed. Like, sounds good. And then also, I guess someone had emailed Marcia and asked for us to redo the field and ask if we move home plate back. But I don't think the logistics and we're able to do that. And so that's really all of our meeting. That's all of our meeting.
Any questions on anything?
I just have one comment or a question and a comment. Where the Willie Mays poster come, where it's on the side of the building where the laundromat is, as you're walking back towards it's a beautiful picture, the greatest catch ever.
Rawlings put it up.
It's extraordinary. It's a beautiful piece for that location.
Where Mays is at?
You know, he's running towards center field.
Yeah, the basket
Yeah.
catch going into the center field. Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. If you referred to. And he made the out against Nick Words, yes, Cleveland.
And it's probably 8 feet by 8 feet or thereabouts. It's very
haven't seen it.
impressive.
I haven't seen that either. That's kind of cool.
Motion to accept the Doubleday Advisory Committee by George, seconded by Audrey, all in favor.
Aye.
Moving on to streets committee.
So there are a number of action items on your agenda for us to start with. The first is that at least one of the adopters of a rain garden would like to see signage indicating that they have adopted the rain garden. In the past, this is something that we haven't considered. My personal opinion is that if we decide to do this, we should do it uniformly and not have individual organizations put up their own signage, which was the request. And at this point, to save Marcia from having to go back and contact everyone, ask them if they want to sign, how they want their name listed, I would suggest if we're going to do this, that we plan to implement it for next year. When people contact her, she can ask and say, do you want to sign? How do you want your name listed?
What does
This
the
type of
sign
thing.
gonna look like? And what is it made of?
Well, so this is another question because adopters clearly change year to year, so
Right.
I'm not sure that we want to
Invest money.
spend a lot of money on it. That said, there are in the rain gardens now an adopt a rain garden thing.
Right.
They are small versions of a yard sign.
Right.
And I think Ellen's suggestion was we could get something like
Very
that.
similar to that.
Yeah.
And this is the most recent request that has come from an organization, but I've had requests from other people
Mhm.
who want to say, you know.
I have to say that a number of the rain gardens look really nice. People have put plants in there, both
Yep.
perennials and annuals. And it's really, it looks pretty. And hopefully that will deter people from throwing garbage in there if they see beautiful flowers.
I will say that when they fill up with garbage, that is in part the way they are supposed to work. So they are supposed to, if somebody drops something on the sidewalk, right? It's supposed to go into the rain garden and not into the gutter, which goes to the lake. So
Wow.
when it's not always what happens, but some of that stuff that ends up in there is
It's
supposed,
intentional.
it's
I'm gonna be dropping
it, right?
Garbage.
Dropping on the side.
it's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the idea.
So
Keep them very low to the ground.
can we work on a plan for next year with a uniform design and a relatively low cost? Okay, 15-minute spaces. So Jenna included this, and this morning we had lively discussion. This is in here particularly because Tom Russo has been coming to Streets every month to talk about signage and the places that he is seeing appeals to parking tickets. And when he goes out and looks, he says, yeah, you're right, it's not clear. So one of those places was at Doubleday Field. There was kind of like half a space. And we didn't think we had to block off half a space, but people kept trying to park in it and they would get a ticket and then he'd have to, waive their ticket. So one of the places where there is a problem, if you go to the back of the 15-minute spaces, is on Pioneer Street.
Okay.
And it is the one that says Pioneer Street West, 3 spaces nearest the southern curb line of Main Street, south to Pioneer Alley. So there are 3 parking spaces there that are all 15 minutes. And the problem is that there are 15 minutes signs with arrows, but the middle space doesn't have its own sign. So people will say, well, there is no sign at this particular space. I don't want to speak to people's intentions. But that said, as we were discussing this at Streets, the question became, do we really need 3 spaces there? Do we really need any spaces there? These spaces may have been intended to serve a business that no longer exists. We were talking this morning, many people do use them for the farmer's market. So you pull around the corner, you park there, you get your farmer's market stuff. I have done that myself. But before we go invest in further signage to make it abundantly clear, I wanted to get some impressions from the trustees as to whether we wanted to keep all 3 spaces or whether we wanted to shrink to 2 or what we wanted to do.
It's 15 minutes there on that section, that long.
There are very, you could go into Ustremski's, I suppose, for 15 minutes.
No, I'm not talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Are there on that that block of Pioneer between Main and
Those are
Church?
the only.
Those are our only 15-minute. And we had some great little businesses open up there, signage, yarn shop, etc.
Yep.
And
And the distillery, the beverage exchange, it started in.
right, yeah. And I spoke this morning because I'm one of those people that will run into the farmer's market, particularly when there's this weekly, farm share carrying a huge basket. It was ideal.
So keep them and better sign.
Yeah,
what I'm
that
hearing.
would be,
One
yeah.
more 15-minute sign.
We sure do. And Molly, to your point this morning, the one underneath that where it says Pioneer Street is supposed to refer to the 4 spaces on the other leg of Pioneer. And Jenna's working at getting general codes to update that because somehow they dropped the explanatory text in our law. Okay. All right, that's 15-minute spaces. School sports signs. So you've probably noticed when you come into the village, a plethora of school sports signs. We have one more to add. And Mitch said at this point, I can't put any more on those particular posts. So we wondered how people felt about taking down and returning to the schools the signs that are over 20 years old. Otherwise, we're gonna have to put up another post. There is literally not enough room for more.
I mean, as a former country runner, I know one of the signs says the cross country team from like 20 years ago. I don't know.
I think like
I
that.
just think that's one of the charming things about
Yeah,
Japanese entry.
I think,
Plan the history of.
We're not talking about taking all of them down. We're talking
I
about.
understand, but the antiquity is its own.
Charm.
So I will tell you to counter that, if Tom Russo were here, he would tell you that people don't see the signs that they are supposed to see, which refer to safety issues and 20-foot vehicles because the school signs are he's been telling us to move them all together, that they are a distraction, and people will say, I saw the orange signs. I didn't see the one that said I couldn't park my trailer on the street.
Great. I'm not buying it either.
I mean, I do think there will come a point where we're gonna have to take some of these down.
is there someplace else where we could put this?
Right.
You
It
know,
would be
this-
fine to put them
and-
somewhere else.
The information that would, a point of pride that would be seen by many visitors that would not affect traffic coming into the village. I
I'm
mean,
wondering about putting it, should we look at the Linden Ave extension? You know,
Yeah.
putting it
Yeah.
out there where, because that's an entrance to the school.
Right.
Yeah, that would be fine.
100%.
well, I go further. I mean, but that's not what, we'll see it, but visitors won't see it for the most part.
They see Linden Ave extension because that hits Route
Yeah.
28.
The blue up.
Yeah.
I, no,
I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I did, and it's associated with the school, but the memory, people looking back.
I would leave all the signs up, buy another post if needed, but potentially relocate it.
So are we relocating the old ones or are we relocating the new ones? Or are we relocating all of
could
them?
we put this back in the streets committee and discuss it?
Streets really wanted the board's opinion because clearly there are strong feelings
All right,
about
well,
this.
I can, you know, as I think about this. I would actually put another signboard up. Say on 22 Main, on the Main Street side. And basically
Yeah.
say, you know, list all the achievements,
Put them on the pillars.
not the pillars. I mean, seriously, where people who are walking in the community would see it, because visitors walk in the community.
Well, don't forget, we have our Route 28 project. the
Yeah.
new Sidewalk going in.
We
that
do.
will connect to
All right.
the Linden
Yeah,
Ave
it's true.
extension. That's an ideal spot.
I think that makes the most
Okay,
sense.
Yeah.
Cindy, can I ask what the strong feelings were on the streets committee?
No, that we anticipated there would be strong feelings here.
Oh, I misunderstood.
The strong feelings on the streets committee were that no more signs are going to fit on the signposts.
And let's do the signposts and eventually relocate.
Right, so are we gonna relocate all of them to Linden Avenue?
All of them being all the school.
All the school champion signs to Linden Avenue. There is right now.
Where, which end?
Yeah, I think I've heard it.
There's one coming down Route 80. And there's one coming up 28.
Or just one.
They're all out of space. There's no more space on the post.
There's one on Route 80, but.
Yes, yeah.
It's funny, I haven't noticed that one.
Well, what's the idea of making it
Bad, whether one on 80 and the one by the Fenimore Village.
What did Tom Russo say those locations were bad? No, I think his comments were about the one on 28.
Okay, so potentially relocate the 28. And
Get more places.
get more information on how much is the cost for another post.
I don't think it's a cost issue. I think it's a visual clutter. It's a visual issue.
So it's a whole nother sign, it's not making a little taller.
Correct. It's another sign.
I mean, I'll amend my position to say associated with the school street, Linden Avenue. Getting, that's the kids who will be passing back and forth will be inspired by the history.
I think that's the real audience. I'm sorry. I mean, yes, for visitors, it's kind of sweet and quaint, but people that really care about it.
You know, you go into like that page in New York is 1931 New York State Division of the Champions, right?
Yeah.
But what's happened since 1930? Yes, well, yes, thank you very much. We might come back next month with some more fine tuning of that, but we needed to get your input and we need to get your input on the last item here as well. So there are some property owners who would like to see their sidewalk replaced and have volunteered to do the work themselves if they could get reimbursed for it. Mitch,
Volunteer to hire a contractor.
Yeah.
correct,
They're not.
correct. But to coordinate it, and it's actually important because we always have more sidewalks than we can do in our very short summer season. So Mitch had seen some sample policies, these aren't laws, but they're policies, that allow for the reimbursement of a property owner up to a certain like amount per linear foot, or, there's a stipulation on these so that, you can't go. Okay,
Okay, so let's develop
we will do that.
Will
That's-
we have to approve of those in advance? I
Well,
hope.
so this becomes the question, do you want it to be an administrative review? Mitch approves?
Yeah.
I don't think we want every.
Well, I mean.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, he's aware of what the sidewalk replacement budget would be,
And
so.
if this sidewalk wasn't in the budget, someone willing to take it out.
They want to be reimbursed for.
So.
Yeah.
Still gonna pay for it.
I mean, so we have a budget for sidewalks, we have grant, I mean, I just don't know how wildly out of control this gets, if somebody decides
That's
that.
true, because we don't have the money to do. the
Then he's gonna
sidewalk.
say, then he's gonna say no. If we don't have the money, then he's gonna tell them. Wait till next
Right,
year.
but so to me, it's just kind of a nonsense proposal.
It's not a nonsense proposal. We can't keep up with our sidewalk replacement. Then
No, I
it's
know.
not a money issue, it's a
But-
time issue.
I understand that, but the remedy of the property owner deciding to do it and then waiting around to get reimbursed when we're not budgeting.
They have to get pre-approved. They don't just do it and then come for reimbursement. They
Well, that's
have,
what that was my first question.
they,
Is that, are we gonna have a process by which they have to be reviewed and approved, and part of our decision has to be that you've got the money to reimburse.
right. And my question was, do you want that to happen by Mitch? Or do you want all those requests to come to the Board of Trustees?
That's less of a concern as long as, I mean, that's a lot to put on Mitch, but he's gotta know the budget, he's gotta know.
Yeah, and sometimes he has additional funds.
Mhm.
And, okay, that's the equipment didn't cost that much.
Right?
And within his public works budget, he can shift the funds. So I could see leaving it in his bailiwick.
The other thing I would raise is cost, when you building sidewalks at scale, you're staging a lot of equipment, you're having everything there. There's an economy of scale. If everybody's doing your 15-foot section, that's gonna be a big price to the village.
No, we limit what we reimburse them, what it would cost us if we did.
Doesn't, no, but it.
Yeah, and
okay.
also the homeowner's not paying for their own maintenance.
Yeah, they're gonna get it
But
done.
we also have,
Oh, the
to understand-
homeowner could pay for it.
No, they'd get it done cheaper than we could.
you have to have standards and oversight and inspection.
The question is, would you like us to put together a policy for
Yeah, I
review
think
next
so.
month?
Let's do it.
I'd look at a draft policy, but I see myriad problems.
So.
Well, I don't want to waste
Okay.
my time if
Right
you're,
down
if you're
the
opposed to
And we
it.
on the street.
All right.
Put together.
I would like to see a draft policy for next month with the consideration that there'll be, obviously some more questions.
I would like to see it.
There.
And I'm assuming you can go to another municipality that has a similar policy, so you're not spending tons of time
Yeah.
for something we may know.
Just other pieces of information, the Hall of Fame weekend was not as large as it is some years. The trolley ridership over the weekend, which has been our saving grace, was down about 50% from last year.
Wow. Yeah. Well, maybe not so much.
No,
None of the inductees this year, I think, spent their careers on less than 3 teams.
Yeah.
Which breaks down the
Yep.
fan base.
yeah.
Yeah.
And are there any other questions about the minutes?
No, I just,
About the minutes, this came up this morning when you showed us this. And
Oh, the compact
everybody
car.
Was launching into.
Yeah, yeah.
What about that? And he was saying, no, it's just this 1 15-minute thing we're looking at.
Yeah.
I looked up compact cars.
Yes.
And I, in your additional agenda there, I
Yeah.
put this. We do mention compact cars in our law.
In the zoning law.
In our zoning law, that is 100% right, and it's in the private parking lots, et cetera.
Yep.
But even though we mention it, we don't
Correct.
define it, so
Correct.
we definitely need. A definition, I will tell you, I looked up at other municipalities. And manufacturers, and here's the interesting thing, do you know how manufacturers define?
Yeah, how?
compact?
Yeah.
Do you know how?
No.
Price.
Car passenger and cargo volume
Yeah.
falls strictly between 100 and 109 cubic feet. And I just love that, so I was envisioning, and how do we regulate?
I was gonna say, that's so easy for our traffic enforcement.
Yeah, but then I did find laws, and again, I put it on this, which is in your additional agenda there. A compact car definition, compact car, a vehicle with an exterior length that measures between 13.5 feet, 161 inches, and 16.5 feet, 197 inches long.
So this is the zoning law. Would you like to see this in the traffic and the vehicle and traffic law? Because that's a different.
Well, then I think, I think our zoning needs to
Yeah,
have it because we're using
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So that needs to be there. I didn't write this up, but we
Yeah.
have, as we pointed out, we have a sign at the corner of Main and Pioneer, that the southwest corner. That because sort of in front of the old church and stuff, that says compact car. Because if you get a 20-foot vehicle there, you can't see people in the crosswalk, you've got to go out and around it, then around the flagpole. It's dangerous and it says compact car, but we don't enforce that, we don't have it in our law, so I would like our traffic and safety to.
Yeah,
To
so that,
actually have that, we have the sign that says compact. And then
Which
be
one is
able
that?
to, I was saying that I had been someplace that had. Compact car parking, and what they did was. You have your lines, they painted the back side, so
Yeah.
if you extended over that, so if we made it. Whatever it is 17 feet, and you were more than 17 feet. And over that line.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
The first parking spot going from west to east on Main Street past this flagpole is actually a handicap spot. I looked at it today, I was surprised.
it's the one on the other side that's compact.
Yeah, but that, I've had more problems getting
by
past that spot.
I agree with you. Yeah. So I know that you can do this on private property through the zoning law. I didn't get a chance to talk to Jess today because he was busy doing signs and the like, about what the standards are for public property. But yes, I think we should, if we're gonna post
Look
it,
into it.
yeah.
So that's a matter of peace committee, look at, having to look at, I found that. Definition, shall I say, but the only mention in our law was under our zoning, but. Yeah, compact cars, being able to regulate that on public
Yeah.
street.
On the other side of the length question, we have signage about, is it 20 or 22 feet?
20 feet.
20 feet in length, and I think a lot of newer vehicles are pushing
Longer.
way beyond that. And I don't know what our traffic enforcement people do, but when you see these massive SUVs that take the baseball people in here. If they're over 20 feet, they're parked all over the village.
Yeah.
They're all illegal. And as to that, coming up Pioneer Street to Main, that first parking spot on the left on Main Street is such a visual barrier. Is that the one you say is handicap, Richard? Because
We're crossing past Pioneer, past the flagpole. We're heading from west to east, as if you were coming to the village hall. And I've had problems getting by that spot.
this is east to west. It's the last spot
Okay,
on the northern part of Main Street before you turn right onto Pioneer Street to the down Pioneer. To take a right to the station.
You're coming from the east. You're coming from Village Hall.
And I'm heading west. And I'm gonna take a right on Pioneer, that last, in front of, Eddie Russo's place. That spot, when it's not an SUV, and it is treacherous for just merging traffic.
We actually eliminated a spot there. So,
Okay.
so it's already like one spot back.
Yeah.
You're talking about one that's parallel.
This is parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, use it anyway.
I think that might be true.
All right, any other questions, comments on streets committee report? No, a lot of action items. on that.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the streets committee report, second by Molly, in favor.
you can indulge me and let me give my report first, and we'll see the reason why. Finance and personnel.
Buildings. Isn't that buildings here?
No, I just said, would you indulge me and let me give my report first?
Or rather than buildings.
Yes,
And we'll know why.
Martin, explain to it quietly what's going on. No, you don't understand?
I don't, but that's.
Just make some up.
I'm a 73-year-old male, I've been here 2 hours and I had a gap, I had a quart of iced tea before I came. So, you can either do, you can do buildings without me and hold my get back never.
Right on. Sorry, didn't understand.
Okay, finance committee, I did review the digital, reports that came out. We are going to try and work on getting them, so the format is, everything is in line in one plane. So you don't have to keep turning your head to try and read it, or go individually, day. Well, it was 154 pages, and I did look at all of them. But
All board members are supposed to look at all of that.
that's about as far as I think. We have this distributions, and we have transfers. I moved the consent agenda for this.
Second.
Second by Cindy, all in favor?
All right.
They got personnel. You have the personnel reports. I moved the personnel agenda.
By Richard, second by Molly, all in favor?
Aye.
Going through the packet, I did realize there were, so all those invoices are in your packet.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's why they're on the consent agenda. They're listed. We approved them all. There are 2 invoices in there that did not make the consent agenda, so I will move those. We have, let's see, Enzo, is just for our South End project. You would have seen the complete invoice in there. Is actually 2. A total of $71,971.71. I move payment of that invoice, second by Joe, all in favor? Aye. And the other was the SUNY Research Foundation, Dr. Yokota's contract as scientific advisor to the Watershed Supervisory Committee. The village's contribution of that contract of $5,000 invoices in your paperwork. I move the payment of that, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye. There's an invoice, there's another invoice,
And on the additional
on
agenda,
the additional agenda.
do you want to do that?
Sure, I'm just doing right.
Yeah, I need to abstain from Dr. Yokota's.
Okay, invoice from answered phone in the amount of 81.19. I move that,
Okay, I second, all in favor?
Okay.
Motion to accept the finance report.
So moved.
By Cindy, second by.
George.
Whoever. Someone else. There are 2 voices. George, okay. You were saying it, but then I thought that's not your. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, welcome home Cooperstown.
Wait, are we doing?
Oh, buildings.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it. Buildings, they're really, all I'm gonna say about buildings, we've sort of covered it, and so unless you have any questions about anything in your packet. It did come up this week that we have budgeted for the breakaway, the bar door here. We budgeted for the water fountain. These are all things that will get accomplished this year in our buildings. Our South End project is phenomenally consuming of our public works superintendent's time. And I know this personally also because I was without water for several days, because trying to shut off the water to Delaware.
Yes.
That did not work. We went down to Susquehanna, that shut off didn't work. They finally, this is aging infrastructure, this is why it's critical that we tackle these huge $2.4 million projects as we go. They finally found a shut off on Beaver Street, so we only lost water for like 2 hours one day, totally cold. The next day, it was going on so long that had it gone for about another half hour, there would have been a boil of water over.
Oh,
So
really?
there's little hurdles all the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
on this project, and Mitch is doing, I think the board just needs to really commend him for his incredible supervision and guidance on this project. It's pretty incredible. So that's all I'm gonna say about buildings. We will be doing all the other projects, but once this is done.
Just a question on automatic doors, how will we get automatic elevator doors? Are they gonna be accordion doors or there's no pocket?
No, they swing open.
Oh, it'll swing open automatically.
Wow,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Interesting.
All right, so moving on to projects and grants update, we next August 4th
Have the, that's the minute? Or the committee?
of the buildings. Did I not? Your guess
I don't
not.
think we did it, but I.
Motion made by Audrey to accept the buildings report, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So. Welcome to Cooperstown, August 4th. It's going to basically feature in many ways Bassett Hospital, President and CEO. Bassett, Stacy Thompson will be on hand to present a brief update about Bassett and the music. This is very exciting. Cardiac surgery's own Toby Wilcox will be like the music. There'll be information on various upcoming events. And was doing the I'm not sure, but maybe they can see. Oh yeah, Bassett Medical Recruiting Office. We'll be doing like the welcome of the Sundays and all. So remember that in the summer months, July and August, our welcome home event is only 5:30 to 6:30, so everybody go down and see the concerts. So hopefully you'll be able to attend that. Yes, I am going to discuss this in open session. Alcico Now was contacted by the individuals whose bios and everything you received digitally. And they were looking at a redevelopment project of 34 to 36 Pioneer Street, which we know as the Tenantwood Hotel. And they were seeking a community development block grant. Those are through that's actually federal funding. It's distributed through to the states through in New York State Home and Community Renewal. Those funds, there was some mention that are those threatened in any way? They are not. They do have these funds for a historical point. The village has gotten a community development block grant previously. It was for an existing business, the Cooperstown Distillery, when they added their 7,000 square foot rick house. And a large component of the community development block grant funding is the addition of jobs. you have to add X number of jobs, which the distillery did. These grants come through HCR. That one for the distillery was facilitated by Oxbow now. They have to go to a municipality. The individuals had reached out to Oxbow now for a community development block grant of $645,000 for basically what they were proposing as their purchase of the Tunnicliff and then the upgrading of the facilities. They've given you a written description of a restaurant, etc. This is all I was given, and I said there is, this is 100% a board decision because this is a grant. And I did contact HCR, and as it says preliminary, this is kind of they called it the introductory. This is like putting an inquiry in. I said it may be an inquiry, but I don't have any of this documentation to be able to document any of these numbers. Yeah, I'm putting it before the board.
I have a contract on my desk.
From whom? By whom? Not this group.
No, it's
See?
a woman that is proposing a $2.5 million purchase price.
That's what this is. This is
Oh,
purchase.
yeah.
I thought you said
Oh, so you're,
600,000. They are talking about purchasing.
well, this is the purchase price. You can see that.
Okay,
bill.
well, have this in front of you.
Yeah, I think you have it, you have 2.5, then building renovation. You're proposing $1 million. And then this is all the equipment, the soft tops, etc. This is the total project cost being proposed, $5,459,917.
What is that going towards?
The entire
The building.
building a hotel.
Okay, so question, if it's building a hotel, do they have parking spaces?
Right.
They rent them from you. They have 5 of their own. But then they rent the balance from the village. There's a contract we did a few years ago, just in the last 5 years. It was discovered, we had a survey.
Everybody knows about this. This is in the budget. We all look
Yeah.
at it. It's been in there for 6 years.
Yeah.
It's the Pioneer Park revenue. When we did the renovation of Pioneer Park in like 2016, 17, that survey showed that that park was created when those buildings burned down. And we acquired ultimately that property. The building that would have been the furthest, and it would have been right up against Clark's. Now, Charlie and the first store. Goes all the way back
To the alley.
to the total park property.
Yeah.
So it was all those parking places.
We hadn't realized that, so we immediately, the board talked about it.
The
We-
board at that time,
And they
the
read-
ability of, because we thought this could become a free for all. Oh my gosh, there's parking places, I'll give you $2,000, you know. We thought we would make them available for adjacent property owners, so. Our family rents like 2 and they own 10 that rents like 4, so they have like 9 spaces.
Right, the question I have is. I have a lot of questions about this, but they're talking about a 16 suite hotel. What is our standard requirement for parking for a hotel? One
16.
one car, one space per room?
Yep,
Oh.
I need, yep.
So, I mean, so that's just a question I have, how we figure that out. To your point, your question, so the community development block grant is gonna be the 625 add to the 1875, that's gonna be the purchase price of the building. So there, if I'm reading this correct, where do you get the 2 point?
The contract that has been advanced by an individual is for 2.5.
It's on the subtotal line. It's on the right-hand side as well. So
Right, so
it's the,
it's the total of the community development block grant and senior debt. You don't know.
There is no debt currently on.
Well,
Well,
that's
that's gonna
like,
be a mortgage.
Oh, that. for
Yeah.
This is what I'm
yes.
trying to, this is what I really need help understanding, because when I look at this end number, the $5.5 million project. Are we gonna ask for? This is hard for me to understand our role in this. We're supposed to be supportive of the community development block grant. But do we have any pro formas to say this project could ever pencil out? With this kind of cost? And how, what do they think they're gonna be, full-time occupancy year round? Hard to believe, right? So
for the community development block grant, they're requesting 645,000. That has separate criteria. Again, this is the preliminary, this is like entry level. Then if it's reviewed by HCR and they say, oh, there's potential here, then there's a full application that HCR would vet. And all HCR really cares about is in this, their community development block grant. They probably, I think they committed to 14 jobs.
33.
33.
Yeah, well, that I was told has, Otsego now has now convinced them to go lower.
So
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to give you what I know
Right.
on it.
At what point does the village have an interest through its regulatory processes to vet this? Or is this a grandfathered property? They can do whatever they want?
No, this is the point tonight.
Well, then, if I'm asking the right question, my question is, I want to see pro formas on how this project can even work.
Yeah.
I mean, we demanded that of others, right?
yeah, no, I have two concerns. One, so if we authorize this, the mayor would have to sign this statement that says that everything on the
I
pre-submission
acknowledge, yeah.
form has been acknowledged. This is not the full pre-submission form. This is just the budget worksheet from that form. So I think we would have to see at a minimum the entire form in order to authorize signature of it. But more importantly, I think whenever we've considered projects like this, particularly when we become on the line for funding, the developer has made a presentation for us. Otsego now has made a presentation for us so that we understand the scope of the project, the intended results, the budgetary figures. And I feel without that, it is not wise to authorize pre-submission, even though it's only pre-submission. I get that. I have some serious zoning concerns. I did look for an existing special permit for the Tunnicliff. It has been around long enough that there isn't one in there, so.
It's been a hotel, 1805.
There you go.
Yeah.
We just didn't do it.
Yeah, no, we just didn't do the special use permits, right? But I mean, I do think there are some complicated things that need to be talked through, and without an applicant or an applicant's agent to do that, I think we should table this discussion until we can get additional information.
From Mexico now,
Yeah, but
and the applicant, yeah.
I wonder what's different about how Otsego approached us last time. I do remember that quite vividly.
They weren't formal, they're again. That's years and years ago, but.
Well, but I'm saying.
The applicant came, it wasn't, so much on Otsego now came
Right.
at that time.
Like, they were-
But also, we were dealing with a business owner who had a business that he already owned the business and he lived in the village and he was putting expansion on something that he had already begun to develop. I think it was a totally different scenario. I almost feel that if they completed a purchase, they then would have the ability to.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they might not want to do that without knowing that they had support, but I do think it's important to provide more than 2/3 of a sheet and a half a sheet of
Yeah.
budget information to
Yeah.
ask ask a municipality to support your project. And in essence,
Yeah.
we'll be on the line for the jobs.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
we aren't on the line. They don't get their money.
Right.
So if they have to confirm the jobs, just the same as the
Yeah.
distillery did.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what was I gonna ask you? First of all, they've got the Mohawk Valley.
The embed, yeah.
Yeah, do they
Some-
have that money? No. They're proposing it. I mean, there are a lot of questions about this. When is the preliminary application due?
This is rolling, so there's no due date on
Okay.
it. So we have that total leeway. I will say that part of the, and I may have referenced this, I think the director of Let's Go Now is you know, had some issues that he hasn't been in the office. So
Mhm.
I think we do have unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Right, in addition to the pro formas, that the fourth column, the senior debt column. I think we need to know where how that money's gonna be acquired. I mean, I don't wanna know their private details, but that's $3 million that they're saying. That's, you know, we're gonna get that someplace.
You're talking about the line of senior debt.
Yes, all those different items, they're gonna be getting presumably loans or whatever, and how does all that work? Again, in the process of retiring a debt, selling the rooms, making your money and coming away with, these are the projects. And 33 new jobs.
Actually, this does indicate that they have committed funding, doesn't it? If you look at the two asterisks,
Contract. Without bullshit too much, the contract, I was not aware of any of this grant application, by the way, till just now.
Well, neither was the builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
The contract is subject to contingent on there's a bank, that has, given preliminary approval to their purchase and to loan that amount of money.
mhm.
So we're at a holding pattern from a legal perspective until they get their finance.
Well,
As far
also,
as I know, they haven't gotten it yet.
well, they're indicating yes on the Mohawk Valley economic development money as well.
And if they have that, they haven't notified the attorney.
Is this, so the contract on your desk is because you're the village attorney or you are?
Oh, no.
Has nothing to do with this. Contract on this desk has no, but the building owner.
Right.
Okay, so that's awkward, right? Because we're trying to find out. So
I represent the seller.
the seller, and the seller didn't disclose this part of it.
I probably as well versed on the whole closing as the seller, and I'm not aware. So this just came up, so Joe, I don't know, I know less than probably all of you, because I didn't even see this.
So we are going to, go now. They need to provide. I did ask these questions and they said, actually, if you get beyond this, the state says this starts to look good in the next application. I said, late, I'm not signing this until we feel comfortable that these are valid, because it will be for the village name. That $645,000 can't go to Go Now, even though they're coordinating this, if you want to think about it. That money can only go to a municipality, so it would be on us to administer, so that's the concern.
Right, and we've had that concern, and it was a lot of work to administer.
It is.
Well, with the distillery one.
Yes.
It wasn't a ton of work, it was maybe a little ton because it was the first one we did. And because it's federal, we never had some of the policies that annually we now adopt and re-adopt at our organizational meeting in April. There's like 3 of those. We never even knew we theoretically needed until we did our first. So it helped improve
Yep.
our administrative abilities. There was an administrative fee on that, not huge, it was like $10,000
Yeah, it's
that we retained for administrative. I tell you, that's probably more than we have on many of our grants, and administrative fees
Yeah.
we retain.
Again,
So here's it, so I am asking Otsego now to come and make a presentation to the board. I probably will ask them not to do it at a trustee meeting, because our meetings just go way too long for that special meeting. And, why don't you send me questions
Yep.
that you are in particular would like to see answered by Otsego now and the.
and I guess the seller, does the seller have a contingency on?
Oh, so we have a financing contingency of 2.5 million. Period. That's why all this is new to me.
I mean, I will say, I don't want to make it sound like we're poo-pooing this project.
No.
I think having a new business by a developer who has experience in the hospitality industry to move into this property is fantastic. It's just not spelled out in a way that
Right.
it's easy to understand it.
I mean, this is essentially.
Yeah, right.
Which is not much.
See that page, okay.
It's obviously something the buyer needs to do. I'll be talking to the buyer's attorney tomorrow because I'm not aware of this.
Okay, so please send me all the players' questions, I will make sure
Okay.
that it's all transmitted and will be fully included in any presentation.
So, Martin, the buyer presumably has all this info, right? Because they're pitching, well, I mean, logically, somebody's pitching this grant, it's gotta be the developer, right?
That's you now.
So, I mean, I just bring this to his. There are a lot of disconnected dots, I guess, sort of see this.
All right, moving on, New York Forward, as you all know, we've shifted, Pioneer Alley to spring of 2027. We're moving forward with the surveying of Grove Street, to try and get that sidewalk installed. Remember, New York, all these grants want to see some kind of movement. We will have had the contract for over a year at that point and still not have a project sort of commenced or underway. So we are looking at Grove Street, going to bid construction and of the sidewalk in the fall of 2026. And then moving into the Pioneer Alley. Because we need to do some Grove Street survey work for the sidewalk, and as long as Passero is in town with their surveyors, we're having them also look at Hoffman Lane.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about, I had an inquiry today about the status of the Hoffman Lane project. It was mentioned in the heading, and then there was no mention of Hoffman Lane thereafter. So what is the?
Basically, when you do a New York project like this, any of ours, our local water park revitalization, you have to say when you're doing kind of each task, when to be completed. When we had looked at this, we had looked at Pioneer Alley this fall, shifting to maybe Fowler Way next year, and then Hoffman, because we realize Hoffman has more kind of property owners and isn't surveyed and et cetera, might have more issues. And so that would have been later on. So we revamped that a bit, but Hoffman Lane could still be way out to 28, 29 at least.
Okay, that's another one.
But as long as the survey way can be done now, there are certain things that can begin on it, but the actual design and work would be later.
So is a survey, you mentioned Passero surveyors in town, are they gonna survey Hoffman Lane?
That's what we've suggested, and they have hopefully concurred.
Yeah, I just want to be able to report to the neighbors.
And as you know, in our finance packet, we approved our very first New York Forward invoice with Passerelle. So we are moving along on it.
And just the last question on Hawthorne Lane, you do have a commitment for funding for the project.
Yeah, from New York
Okay,
State.
I'm just from New York Forward, we have. I was confused about your statement that we have to tell them when we're gonna begin, but the money is secured for this Hawthorne Lane project.
Yes.
Okay, well, the neighbors are not clear, and I'm trying to be clear with them the when and the that, so.
Yeah, this is, if you recall, we had a $4.5 million, that's guaranteed. In fact, the amount that went out to the businesses on our main street, the 300,000 that was distributed by MVED, that's already begun to flow. Josh's project, The Grove on the corner of Glen and Grove, got 1.3 million. That has begun to flow. 53 Pioneer has received funds. I don't believe they've kind of gotten to the point where they've had any submission because a lot of work they've done, they had commenced before their contract was in place, so it wasn't included in their grant. So we have, I don't have the number right in front of me, but it's like 2.3 million for our projects.
And last question on the Hawthorne Lane project, how. I recollect that we had a green grant that we didn't get. Are we relocating the parking lot and are we doing the subterranean drainage as part of Hawthorne Lane nonetheless?
I don't know that we have changed the scope from the New York Forward submission, which included relocating.
Which did
the
include
parking
that.
lot And
And establishing the underground drainage. Well, I didn't know what was left of the green project.
the permeable nature of anything. Nobody likes those bricks anyway.
And I would just add that the bricks at Doubleday Field are just an absolute nightmare.
Moving on, round 9, they are beginning their application for HCR funding, which will be due, I believe, in September with a notification date in February. Project Berry Spring, we were down to like 2 things that the village component of it, shall I say, and the Friends of the Parks, and that was a ESC, an erosion and sediment control plan. And that has been worked out by the engineer. I believe everything by this Wednesday will be finalized. And then there was some review of our septic system, as I've mentioned last time. It's not that yes, we're adding ADA compliant 2 toilets and shower and bath for the caretaker. We aren't seeing like there's going to be phenomenally increased. It just means the ones in the woods. So there has been an analysis, the capacity of the septic system to ensure. And once that's all completed, they imagine they'll be going to bid. So that's moving right along. I don't think there's anything else I'd reported previously that our achieve component of the Doubleday Field, we are guaranteed 1 million. We had to file the application because, but remember, Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development District, the 6-county development council that we belong in, won the inaugural $32 million prize. So we're 1 million of that 32 million, and it's that's great. And I believe that's it. So moving on to Parks Board.
The water meter grants, I'm sorry, I missed that.
What was that again?
The water meter grant,
The water meter grant went in. That was, I have actually announced that last month. I'm just leaving it on there to keep it all in everybody's radar. It was due before our meeting in June. They had backed that up.
Okay, Parks Board, all righty. I think, everybody, of course, is disappointed that John is retiring, but we're wishing him well. There's a lot of good stuff happening at the parks. Lakefront Park, we did have a good turnout in spite of the canceled concert. There was a DJ instead, so that was good, and there was a good turnout. The friends of the park gave us an update and noted that there were lifeguards who took advantage of the scholarship, and we've got a lot of lifeguards, as we know, which is great. There was a little issue on July 4th with the parks being closed due to the lifeguards thinking they should be paid for holiday pay. So, but we've dealt with that.
Yeah, may I
Yes,
comment on that? I was startled to read that bullet
Yes.
point. And the idea that they walked off the job
yes.
on a holiday
Well, they
weekend.
didn't sign up for shifts. I mean, they didn't like go and then leave. They didn't sign up for shifts.
Well, they said the lifeguards canceled their shifts they had signed up for.
Right, which they signed up on an online platform, so they just unsigned up and didn't show up. So it's not like they went and left. I just want to clarify.
But it-
That's plenty
it's still
clear,
not
Jenna.
good.
No, it's not good,
plenty
but-
Clear, but that to me is unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable.
And that to me.
And I'll just to add to that, we paid their scholarship money.
We did not. That was
We-
friends
Well,
of
but
the
they were
park.
friends of the park, but they were paid. I'll use the passive voice. They were paid their scholarship money for their training.
Right.
They were
They-
reimbursed for their.
Yeah, they were
They
reimbursed.
weren't paid.
It's not,
They got their training for free. That's valuable consideration.
They got their training,
And
no
they
cost to themselves.
It is not, I want to really be as strongly critical as I can for the irresponsibility of that. The lack of maturity in walking off the job because they weren't gonna get more money on a holiday for a shift they had signed up for a summer job. Right? It's just really not good form, and I'm very disappointed in these people.
yes, it was disappointing to hear that. I was not around for 4th of July weekend, so I was not aware of it at the time. But it has been dealt with. The caretakers did speak with them, so. The big issue, I think, and you've got a copy of the school attorney's opinion letter on the dog park, on the easement. And we did talk about the dog park with regard to this opinion letter, which calls into question all kinds of things that we are not so sure we agree. And the board, the Parks Board, is asking that Martin write an opinion on this.
I've
And-
already spoken, of course, with everyone about, I mean, I disagree. But I don't think you're gonna see the school board change its opinion because an outside attorney is, Joe and I had a long talk about this. Joe came to me and said, I think you should attack this. I didn't even know this existed when I'm writing all my letters.
No, interestingly, that was pointed out, this opinion letter was received by the school board 6 weeks before your letter was sent. And never kind of divulged. Very interesting. But I think the only thing I would feel that the village needs to confirm is we have the sense that our highway use, in particular, our snow storage, our drainage for the snow storage, etc. The easement that prevents blue lot drainage from going on the playing, the girls' playing field, all of those. I think it behooves us to ensure that there's no belief that those are not valid. That would be my.
I have been literally told those are I believe all of it is valid. My only concern, this begins to go to why I had it. Was that I didn't think there was an agreement, there would be an agreement from the school. Mainly based upon several communications I received at one point saying we're not in favor because of our dog problems. But I undertook to write them and ask because I felt we needed a response from the school board, because about the time you spend money and they come along and do challenge it, we have a kind of egg in our hair. So I disagree wholly. I made it very clear to anyone who asks with this, with the attorney's opinion. Part of when you discuss it at length with him is he feels the attachments improper. It's clear what the intent was. If we ended up, if they haven't done anything and I'm told they don't plan on it, there are really 3 or 4 other issues that are critical to us, the snow, melt,
right.
storing snow. I mean, I've been told, we're not doing anything to stop you from doing that. We're not stopping your, he may have said that. But they're saying it's not, and until they try and enforce it, they haven't stopped us in any way. I mean, I pointed out to them all of these issues that their women's softball field used to flood all the time, and they try and move to other fields. It doesn't anymore. Our engineers designed a beautiful drainage system. They don't want to see that lost. They don't want to see, they're happy to be involved with the snow. We have an agreement with them that allows them to park students' cars there over the winter. Not down where the snow is, but in the parking lot. Used to be the kids parked in just kind of a field out there, helter skelter. This gave them a much more safer, better area. And there's so many of these things. If we got into an issue, Joe and I have a little disagreement on this, but I am certain parole evidence would parole evidence meaning oral interpretation of this, because I was involved in much of this. The Height firm is the one who prepared all the easements. Everybody signed off on them knowing what they were doing. The only issue that I ever had was when it starts talking about recreational facilities. Was a dog park a recreational facility? I know Joe felt we should push that issue from the beginning. I didn't think it was wise to do that. I didn't know where they were going to end up on it. I just had several non-board members come to me that said, that's never going to fly because there's some union activity and all this. It's a really convoluted, crazy thing. And so I said, well, let's find out. And that was the whole reason for my asking them for an interpretation. Much to my chagrin, this thing was out there. I don't know how it got done, how they knew about it or whatever happened.
So we've had we've been ships passing in the night. They write something before you ask the question. They've taken a position that will take every consideration that we've given them and deny us every consideration.
They have not denied
have
us
denied
anything.
us.
This guy talks about it.
Yeah.
They don't have to accept that, Joe. That's the point I'm making. And I don't think we want to get into I'm not going to get into a legal battle with the school. Right now, they're not enforcing or they're not trying to stop us.
They're not restricting our use.
They don't care. They made that
Well,
clear. They don't
Yes,
intend
that's
to.
very.
They have restricted our use of a good portion, of acre and a half of the easement.
For one use.
They have said in their response to us that it is not usable for any recreation.
This is their attorney saying that. They haven't said that.
What I would like us to do is to protect ourselves with an administrative record. Right now, this document, which precedes our even asking the question, is extremely prejudicial. And if it's the last document on the pile, that is That is what is gonna be embedded in the school board's.
No,
mind.
parole evidence is what's the last.
No, but you're not talking litigation. I'm talking about having a written record that describes our legal position, our construction of the documents, which we didn't do. We were just saying, hey, we're thinking of a dog park, we want to chat with you about it. And meanwhile, they had already planted the satchel charge under our seat. So I think just to be.
So what am I
legally
supposed to
appropriate,
do?
if you-
Tell me what I'm supposed to say. It's,
I would write a full exposition of our construction of the lease documents. That will obviously have to contradict what he said. This is not a reasoned opinion. He cites no case.
He
law,
doesn't?
just-
No.
We need a reasoned opinion. Against this. For the interest of the village, because the scuttlebutt was, oh, well, now we can use that for a soccer field. They ain't gonna use it, so we're gonna use it for a soccer field. Whether that's just somebody's,
I think
Music,
that's
I don't
somebody
know.
talking.
but. When you pull on one thread of this, you're getting to a point where all four uses. This man has said, this attorney has said, are not legitimate uses. And when you read, and I will read the easement the easement document itself says, and if the road is, the easement is permanent, but only for so long as this easement is used for a highway. And we've never built a highway. We've never, so there's more
When
language.
you
in
talk
this.
about highway, you're talking about that whole project.
That's
That
what we
was-
are talking about. That's not how he construes it.
No, it's not. And I'm not gonna change his mind.
I don't
Nothing's
care about
gonna
him.
change.
I care about our being on the record so that this school board knows if this ever comes up in any way, shape or form. And I must say, the generosity of the village in letting our parking, building the drainage system, protect the softball.
But it's
field,
because it's
letting
on
the
school
students use our-
property and.
letting the students use our parking lot. And not getting anything acknowledged about the nature of the full scope of our interest in that is really inappropriate.
Richard, you know what I said 9 months ago?
Yes, take the.
Make it a negotiation instead of a legal issue. Just say, hey, we do this for you, we're doing this for you. We have this. We think this opinion is a whole cloth, there's no citation. You're gonna let us use it. The school board, you vote up or down, you're gonna let us do this. And if they say no, then they have to be aware, that there is a sword over them saying, well, you guys are using our property for such and such and such and such. Without an easement, that goes away. They have, make it a negotiation. You can make it a friendly negotiation, we can do it, as I said, but you can make it clear to them, make them a deal they can't refuse. And I think that's a better way of fighting it back with his attorney and then fighting and then being afraid to go against what their attorney said.
Yeah, the board never voted down there, did they? To say no, yeah, I don't think they're going
No,
to.
I think you're going to
But they
get.
want them to vote yes.
But
They do
Yeah.
nothing.
they didn't even bring it to a vote.
Right.
Thing, we have in our budget back when Joe thought we were going to buy the land for $1. We put it in our budget, $10,000. We do have 2 parks where there's a potential. We can continue to swing at this windmill.
Yes, I agree. Listen, I am not, look, I understand it's a great parcel of land that would be great for a dog park, but there's just so much fighting against us. I think it is a lot of time and energy that we're spending on it, but I am concerned about Badger Park. I don't think it's ideal.
Then
I think
look
it
at
would be
Ferry
a lot
Spring,
of money
yeah.
to make that usable. Ferry Spring, okay, so you have to drive there. I mean,
Mhm.
and I don't know where in Ferry Spring would it be on the other side of the road? Which is quite hilly.
But there's the old
Yeah, but-
there's the whole campground spots on the other side, on the lake side,
On the lake.
that are relatively flat. And
Well, then maybe that's what we should be doing and using that money to get a design or some, an assessment of feasibility statement.
Can I get some feedback here?
I'll give you some. I think in the negotiation, Richard, I think we terminate student parking on the parking lot right now.
we can't, if we used federal money to buy that, we cannot restrict who parks in it.
But Martin says we've made a special arrangement.
How that came about, for old evidence again, Joe. During the whole course of this, the kids, there was a lot of concern where children live in park. And we said, "Well, you're gonna have a parking lot in the winter." Other than Bassett, who had also come to us and said, "Can we park there?" And we said, "Certainly year round, but in the winter, of course." Because there'll be plenty of spaces. If you ever go down, you'll see the Bassett bus picking up people there that parked there because they needed parking. It was Bassett who first got this grant. And then it was discovered that only a municipality could handle it. And 2 years late, roughly, we get brought into it and we're scrambling. We immediately lost close to $1 million because we couldn't move fast enough. I mean, there's benefits to both parties here. We have a place to deposit our snow. We have a filter that takes care of the salt. It doesn't pollute our grounds nor the river. We have access to our sewage treatment plant, which we discovered when all the surveying was done. We didn't. We received an easement. They're not challenging that. That lets us get down to our sewage easement plant. In the course of it, they were concerned we were going to exacerbate the amount of water running over the girls' softball field, which was already a disaster. And so to facilitate our construction of the field, of the parking lot, we agreed to put in this, it's a sopping unit.
And it's a
is what they
different
call it.
easement. That's a different, and
Then you have to challenge that because they would be flooded out down
but
there.
it's also a different easement. So it's nothing for us to talk about. Our easement is, the easement that at issue is a different easement from that.
We
easement.
never got a vote from the.
So they are, and we
Yeah.
invested, what,
And I don't
300,
think they have-
$500,000?
No, I think they have other bigger.
Well, in that
issues, you
whole
know.
project.
In that whole project, no, in that easement, we invested that much more.
Well, no, we spent money buying the old. There was a feeling that the Little League or the youth, the Cooperstown Youth Baseball should be reimbursed for the monies they spent. That was paid to, not to them, that was paid to Cooperstown Youth Baseball so that we could take their field, which was in the middle of that parking lot, and enabled us to build the parking lot. And that went to the road. And our belief was that was going to be used to build then Jane came in and agreed to give us property.
And we invested all that money in it.
And yeah.
And now we don't
and
have the
then
benefit of that
the
investment.
Cooperstown Youth Baseball decided to go to Hardwick. They had reasons and then.
So at this point, this is Parks Board.
Yes,
It seems like here's the letter we never knew existed before we even wrote ours. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get a definitive answer other than this. We have two potential parks. One might not be feasible,
Right.
the other might be. And it's really up to the Parks Board to kind of
I think-
consider what is feasible.
I think that we should, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Joe, and I applaud all the efforts that everybody's put into this, but I do think we have spent a lot of time on this. If we really want a dog park, let's look at the other option. I don't think Badger is a great option, so maybe we should look at Ferry Spray.
Fine, it's out of town, not.
It's probably no further out than.
No.
I know you can't walk.
All I want to say, I just want to say, I want to say one last thing.
One last thing.
Yes, the issue is not the dog park now. The issue is the integrity of our easement. I still strongly recommend that we respond to this and we protect what is upwards of $500,000 investment in the development of that easement, which this opinion says we are not entitled to make use of for any of the purpose we acquired and developed. That's the last.
That's someone's opinion that hasn't been acted upon.
Our goal is a dog park.
Yeah, and so let's use the money and, right. The only other thing I want to bring.
Come on in and you wanna, see if we can-
My chair is speaking.
Thank you. The two other things I just wanted to mention, and we did talk about it this morning at breakfast with the board, was the noise level at the lakefront concert series coming from the food trucks. And Randy is aware of it, and we talked about some potential changes, I think today. Can't remember, it was Celia's husband, Dr.
Dr.
Oxley,
Oxley.
had suggested some other changes or things that we could look at. So I think at the next Parks Board meeting, we should discuss that. And see if it's feasible. Maybe Mitch will be able to help us with that. And then the letter that we did, or the email we received from Tony and Jane Gentile, I think is the way you say their name.
Yes.
With regard to the docks and the empty spaces, and should we be looking at some sort of policy or regulation for empty stocks, spaces that are not being used when we have a wait list? Perhaps this is also something we should look at.
This
as a
is
Parks
the
Board.
thing, we send out that letter at the beginning of January. Here's
Yeah.
the thing, some of those people, they have the slip. Maybe
Right.
they don't have a boat that's
Right.
functional. It's always,
Yeah,
the two happiest days of your life.
right.
Um,
And I do think we've talked about this before, but I just wonder if we should be
Yeah.
addressing it in some way, shape, or form, if there's a solution.
I don't know how we evict someone who, because their boat's not
There,
there.
yeah.
They have, paid the fees, they've done everything they've complied with, so.
It's not using it.
It is sort of what it is.
Yeah.
There was one, and you all saw that as a refund, there was one boat
Yes.
renter who.
My
ended up
neighbor.
selling their boat,
Mhm.
and got a partial refund, and we were, for the rest of the season, able to move down. So on that list, we moved down like four people.
How long?
I accommodated this year, not very many.
I
How
mean,
long
we
is the
could reach out to people with empty slips and say, we realize your slip is empty. Do you want to keep it? Or would you like us to see if we can rerun it and issue a
great
partial
idea,
refund? I think most people will say they want to keep it, but
but you never know.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
Thank you so much, all of you.
welcome.
All right, motion to accept Parks and Board by only, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Water and Sewer Board, request from Story, you have a motion or an action?
Yeah, we have a recommendation from the board to adjust the sewer portion of the bill according to our procedure, which is it assesses what the prior water was for water usage.
The average
And
of
charge
that
the minimum of
order.
that.
Yeah.
But they were seeking more relief than that, but that's all we recommended. So it's a
So
standard
that's the
protocol,
motion.
yes.
Second by, I'll second it, all in favor?
Let's see, there are a couple of other. I can take it up in either here or, well, I'll bring it up, the picking of the line issue. We did have because this involves our village crew. In the after action report, the biological field station staff looked at the debris that was collected from the pigging process and decided that the systems that we have in place on the water intake line to suppress mussel production and other invasives, clogging our line was effective, and believed that for procedural purposes, every 2 years would be a sufficient interval to pig the line. And I know new devices are to be acquired for that purpose. And so, we're waiting, I think, we're waiting to hear some final input from the, biological field station, scientists, but, based on what Matt Albright reported, and what Tommy Lukenberger believes as a plant operator, that we are, that interval should work. So that, and as you heard, we'll be taking up in the next meeting, the Hage, issue, which is, new facts were presented tonight, new facts to me, we'll look at that more closely. We have considered it, quite a bit over time. There were other, claims for relief, by water users, but we remitted all of them for further, information before we could make a recommendation to the board. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Joe, I have a question regarding that, because I see that you did send Ted Fury back and asked for 2 cost estimates from private contractors. Is there a way, and I guess the form that we worked on last time we were together starts to do this, that we can avoid these long-going debates about whether costs were accurate and who gets charged for what? And saying that, I understand completely that we are responsible for the main and homeowners are responsible for the laterals, right? I think we all could repeat that. But there seems to be a lack of understanding about the costs associated with that when the work is actually being done.
Right, and I think, as you say, that form that we are now going to be using goes a long way to it. People get shocked by the cost of work on the lateral when you're breaking open the street, you're breaking open. In some jurisdictions, the property owner's obligation begins at the turnoff, or at the meter. And sometimes the turnoff and the meter are at the same point, but we go from the main, which is quite, and a lot can go wrong, between the main and the property line of the owner.
But all of us, I'll tell you, I replaced my
I have
water line 4 years ago. And that doesn't look like a bad price to fix.
No,
that by the time you did it. I
totally
would say,
recognize.
Joe, when you go, we'll make sure water and sewer has all the correspondence, because there would be reference that the main was the issue and maybe some of that cost was the main cost. They saw the separate invoice for the repair to the main, the digging of the main. That was over $5,000. So that was totally separate from the actual, what is the curb stop, where all the parts had to be replaced. There were 2 different invoices. So this information has been shared. This was discussed last year at Water and Sewer, and all of our unpaid water bills get kicked over to the taxes. That's the law.
Was Mr. Hage at the meeting though when it was discussed, or was it, I mean, there still seems to be a disconnect.
There were letters.
Yeah.
I know there are letters, I know the letters.
He was not.
Yeah.
I don't recall him being at any meetings.
Yep.
Which you, of course, would have been welcome. I think one of the things, reflecting back on what was said at the public comment meeting, is there a way to let him pay his tax bill?
Yeah.
This entire board voted for that, when in fact, when we did the re-levy, I purposely pointed out the 2 that were water bills on there. And I said, everyone is aware of that, so everyone who voted knew that that's what we're doing. One was,
I don't think we realized people wouldn't be able to make a partial payment.
Right, that I did not realize.
You could make, our partial payment is you could have paid half in June and half in August.
Right, but I didn't realize that you couldn't
He couldn't pay his entire water bill. He couldn't pay his entire tax bill without which he's prepared to do without. paying.
Right.
Yeah, that's standard.
That's law.
That is,
I recognize that. I'm saying is-
Happened to me in the town of Otsego. I will just.
oh, yeah. No, I didn't realize when we did that he would be prevented from paying his
I
other
didn't.
taxes.
Yeah, the returning the check part is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And it actually happens on your school taxes. If you inadvertently don't pay it by the time the next finance fee goes on there and you send your check to the old one, they don't accept that.
because you don't have the
Because you
finance.
are not paying the actual amount that is due. That's state law. That has nothing, it's not unique to the
Yeah.
village.
No, I wasn't aware that it would play out
We have
this
no
way.
remedy at all.
Yeah, so
And I'm asking the question, not making a statement. We have no remedy to offer him to let him pay his $2,500.
I would like it to go back to water and sewer, and if you say, we have, you know how this is getting resolved now? We have this contract in place,
Right.
but this did not happen.
You don't have a
I'm talking
remedy,
about-
Joe, to give him the right to pay less. It is a state law that requires full payment. You can't pay it partially. But you obviously could, if you make a subsequent decision that there is some fairness in reducing the cost to him, not telling you to do that. You could certainly do that and he'd get reimbursement by that amount of the bill that he paid.
Okay.
That's an idea.
Well, it
Yeah.
is what you could do.
Yeah.
If you feel that there's an unfairness, I think Ellen's comment that you look over all those documents, because there's been a lot. I feel bad, but that would be the only way. I think you have a way to at least maybe compromise somewhat if you feel it's important to do with Mr. Fury.
I'll try to sort this out.
All right.
So any other questions, comments on, water and sewer? Moving on, motion to accept that report by Joe, second
By Molly, all in favor?
Hi.
And moving on to Watershed Supervisory Committee, you'll have in your packet a letter to the municipalities that was sent
Mhm.
to the village and all the board of trustees. So you are getting it in that packet. I will point out that at the most recent leadership meeting of the WSC, this was discussed and there are townships very willing to kind of put an annual figure in their budgets to recognizing the incredible assessed value of lakefront property they have in their townships and their responsibilities to the watershed. So, are there any?
Yeah, a couple of other highlights. As you know, we're trying to, with the wake boat issue, trying to do as much public information as we can. And the committee has been working closely with the Freeman's Journal. The reporter who's taken a deep interest in this and done some extensive writing about it. And we have the scientists have furnished us with a graphic that is quite informative about the impacts of the boat overnight. So that's getting more widely distributed. Our inspections are picking up. It's our coordinator has a tremendous amount on his plate that I'm going to get to in a minute. And in the meantime, he's fitting in inspections that had lagged and are now picking up. And there are many, many more to do, but I think that's getting more systematized, which is good for our program because it's a really responsibility and interest of the village to get those done. You probably noticed in the media that we had a couple of tabs outbreaks that were identified and noticed. So that is quite a network of folks who are involved in publicizing the Lake Association, like People 1000, and as I say, many others. We are looking again with our scientific advisor and the Susquehanna Basin Regional Commission about installation of sensors to be installed on the dam at the lake. To more carefully record lake levels, the system of management. Let's see, we discussed, the mayor just discussed the budget. Budget, the proposal for the municipalities, the funding, watershed activities. And then, two other things I had that, we got on our agenda at the supervisory committee is the issue of taking action to control hours of work at labor. Basically changing the website, so that it's not accessible when our students aren't on site. Because we are having, I've seen launches at 9 o'clock at night, I've seen launches early in the morning when no one's there, and, it doesn't take much to contaminate the lake. So the question is how we want to approach this. I think we have the authority not to prohibit, but to control access. I think it's well within our prerogative, notwithstanding that we have a state funded part. Here.
Joe, do you have a sense? My sense is that the stewards are on for a very limited period of time. And I say that seasonally, day to day, days of the week. And I applaud the effort and I understand the reason, but practically, I don't know if there are enough hours that we have stewards available that this could realistically work.
Well, I posit the problem that the uncontrolled, unobserved, unregulated access makes a nullity of the law we've been.
Yes, and
Yep.
the knowledge of people that build.
But I don't think you could launch in the month of May, for instance.
Say again.
I don't know that you would be able to launch at least for the first 3 weeks of May. I don't think we have any stewards.
Well, we need to shape what this remedy is.
Yeah.
But we know. In there early May, there may be less of that going on. We know when our permits are issued for May 1 or May.
May 1.
So I think
My suggestion is before we go public with the idea to avoid the backlash that we have had for perhaps moving forward with wakeboard boats before we've done the education, that we figure out what the solutions are so that
right,
the people who want to go fishing at 5 o'clock in the morning know that they can do that.
I hear it, and my problem, my only interest is in not letting this night out. That we somehow have to put our heads together and decide how we're going to protect the lake in this aspect. And then the second issue is, and Martin, this is something we discussed before, how we can require closings, property closings, that we have a record made of septic inspection. So we haven't advanced the ball on that. That's still something I think everybody thinks would be a good idea and an easy way to get data through our watershed coordinator, to have a modern, updated record. At least in those events with property transfers. And we're hearing more and more sophisticated and different kinds of systems being deployed around our lake, which is good. That people are, but we just have to have a way of monitoring this data, and if it's not, or collecting this data, and if it's not too complicated to do, I recommend that we find a way to work with the county to get those things. Whether it's, you mentioned working with the bar association.
Yeah, the dilemma with costs and where it goes on what record there, that's gonna be the biggest problem. Personally, you could have you could have a site, the village or whatever, collect something. And Jenna looks at me, no, but I have a pile, I was talking to Dick this morning. I have a pile of, because every All ours is checked, every summer it's checked again, and they repair anything that's problematic. And I make them give me a statement, I put it in an envelope, so someone knows it's been inspected, because I was told years ago. By Watershed that we had to keep a record of each inspection, so I pay him, I say, I need you to inspect it. He does it, and I keep all those, but there's no filing place for him, and I said, when you come out to do my inspection. You may wanna look at all of my, cause I have two from every year.
Well, there's an answer, corollary to this, then, do we want to take advantage of records that people have kept, and get them into our village filing systems? Some sort of record system, or
The database that has been created basically allows for proof of inspection. So, you know, every 3 years or whatever are they're on. So that is moving forward. I've chatted with Jake about it. And there's procedures in place, because if you have a holding tank, there's very little quote inspection you can do, you know, you basically need to show it's pumped out. And I think your question on how do we make sure that they're inspecting or pumping these systems before the transfer of property is a real easy one, because we have a database. We get the RP 5217s for the village. We could make sure that our assessor takes that list, have any of these changed hands, and then those people get a letter. You know, so instead of trying to jump through a ton of bureaucratic hurdles or whatever at the county and not being successful with the process, I think there are ways to work that. And Jake's aware of that, so I think
So
we
it's-
do
it's
have
the-
techniques
the
that will work.
solutions can be, the interest is in the data, how we get to I just don't know that we do it, that we're getting it done. If there's something more the watershed committee needs to do to advance that ball, let's do it. If that's something the board needs to do, this board needs to do, let's do it. I just put that report back to the supervisory committee, and I want to
It's
know what we're
in the
doing.
works. Yeah, that's what exactly Jacob said, that, and you know, here's the other thing, those, high capacity units.
Yeah.
ATUs, advanced treatment units, they're very specialized. And we're now paying part of Jake's salary, of course, from water, from sewer, and from general fund. And he's chatted with the wastewater treatment staff. They're paying part of his salary. They will be going out with him. At the prior chief wastewater treatment operator and Eric had gone out with Kecky at times. And so they are familiar and they have knowledge. So it's a team effort and the mechanisms are in place.
So I didn't know they had gotten that assignment. That's how with our wastewater staff is.
That Jake is scheduling those and they're a little, so they have not yet occurred, but that is the process they have worked out.
Hadn't heard that.
Okay. Our next trustee meeting is August 24th. And we have a breakfast with the board at 8 o'clock this morning. Be good. Thank you.